All right, Hangout. We're doing a watch party for CCP's Fanfest announcements. We expect there will be some hints about the kind of events they're going to have at Fanfest, some of the incentives to go, maybe some announcements. These have always been news-making kind of events, so we're going to check it out. I am streaming on Twitch for people who want to catch this later on. I'm going to open it up to our stage here at TIS. This is something we use often when we don't want to interfere. We don't want to have too big a discussion with too many people. Instead, we have an audience and a stage, and that allows us to direct who's talking a lot better, but everybody's invited. It's just kind of a reaction. Maybe some surprises from us. We'll see. But we're starting our live coverage now, and you can catch that on Twitch. Or you can come and join us in the EVE Online stage of Talking in Stations Discord. For future reference, I will put that into our Discord now. Sorry, our Twitch. What you're looking at is the CCP channel. You should go there, CCP TV. That's Twitch. Actually, I was just running a test, so this is not live. Yeah, you want to go to CCP on Twitch to watch their live video, which will start in about 6 minutes. This is now live. I hope you're watching it on CCP. That is twitch.tv/CCP. Ooh, close to starting now. All right, Teddy, you're invited to speak if you want to jump up. There you go. All right. Looks like they're starting. I'm not sure if CCP
TV
minds us rebroadcasting,
okay,
since
yeah, great.
they really just want the
Welcome to
awareness.
our special presentation called The Road to Fanfest. We are so glad you made some time for us today. Hopefully you'll be as excited as we are by the end of the show. First, a little bit of housekeeping. Yes, you can earn channel loyalty points today. No, the bot is not working to redeem the LP for the Galnet Streamcast skins, but that bot will be back soon. In the meantime, please earn as much as you can, and we'll hook you up later. My apologies. Let me take a moment to introduce our guests today. We've got CCP Berger, the creative director for EVE Online.
Good to see you.
We got CCP Rattati,
Applause.
the director of product for EVE Online.
Hi, everyone. Happy to be here.
Applause.
We got CCP Swift, community developer for EVE Online.
Hey, how's it going, everyone?
And I'm
Applause.
Carneros, an EVE talk show personality and NullSec Alliance leader. Well, good to see you guys here.
Good to see you, man.
So,
All right, here we go.
Soon we'll be seeing people in person.
Mhm.
I'm getting amped for it. I don't know if my psyche's ready for it yet, so I'm still like going through the motion.
It's all coming together, like all
Yeah.
restrictions being cut. It's all because of Fanfest, I think. Absolutely, we're definitely getting the country ready for some proper EVE shenanigans here in May.
The country ready.
Can you believe
Iceland's
it's only
not
like
that
10
big,
weeks and we're there?
Now there's Reykjavik.
Yeah,
So
I'm so pumped that I actually started working on my keynote.
That's actually true.
4 weeks ago, and I've never been this timely with any presentation. So super pumped.
Wow.
That leaves me just 9 weeks ready to pronounce to get the correct pronunciation for the venue hall. I'm working on it.
Give us a try.
How long has it been since we were there?
I'm not there yet.
Laugardahlshöll.
I'm gonna play this back in my sleep for the next 10 weeks, and I'll be perfect.
Nice.
Awesome.
Hey, I have a favor to ask for the audience here. Do me a favor, while you are flying to Iceland, wear an EVE t-shirt or a pin or a badge or something, so that if we run into each other at the airport, we can say hi and have a drink in the airport bar and start enjoying FanFest before we even get to Iceland. That adds
please
a lot to
make
me.
it all the way over to Iceland. Don't get thrown out of my
FanFest.
I hate when that happens.
What's
So
the
I
attendance
heard-
looking like, Corneros?
Do I see what?
What's the attendance looking like? There's a lot of people coming in, right?
Yeah, pretty good so far, actually. You know,
Why are they asking Carneros that?
I
They work
hear
at
people
CCP.
talking about it in various channels, so I think it's coming. I'm excited. I'm already planning a Bastion Alliance dinner. I'm trying to poke the Mittani to organize something for Goonswarm in the Imperium. But I heard you guys have some cool stuff to release still before we even get to FanFest. Is there any truth to that?
Yeah, absolutely. We're definitely, getting super excited about FanFest, and we want to kind of start to build up the excitement in the community as well. And we have a series of fun and interesting changes coming out from now until FanFest to really kind of get the conversation going and the juice is flowing.
I've been bouncing my chair for like the last 2 weeks. Actually, ever since the teams were talking to the CSM about some of these changes, I've been just like, I don't know how they're not breaking NDA. I'm glad they're not, and they haven't. But I've been just bouncing. Like I can't go on any Eve talk shows because I'm afraid I'm gonna spill the beans. So finally, we get to talk about it, and
That explains it.
There's a lot of stuff happening, and kind of also something to just embrace the new future, the stuff that we talked about, the winter blog, and just start delivering on that. Actions are better than words, so we're really ready to start kind of pumping all that stuff out.
Yeah, I think last year you had mentioned CCP Retarded, like a lot of last year was like building foundations. And so, foundation building is never the most fun thing, but now the foundations are built, so we can just have a ton of fun. And yeah, I'm just super excited for the next 4 months.
Foundations
Okay.
are built.
You guys sound good, but who feels like leaking anything today? Like, tell us what's coming.
Just gonna like disappear slowly. Kidding. Do you want to kick us off, Berger, on just our new player, our new bro kind of update? Yeah, I mean, so yeah, let's get that out of the way right from the get-go. So I mean, we've been on a very exciting march to embracing new players for a few years now, and we rolled out in September a pretty awesome update to the new player experience, where we're trying to find a balance between the old what we call Inception MP, the big epic kind of drifter storyline MP, and then the NP that kind of took over after that, where we're mixing together a little bit, kind of learn at your own pace and have a proper storyline. And the next iteration of that will come out in March, where we're going to go into the basics of mining and teach players the basics of mining in industry, which is super important. It gives players a really valid playstyle to make some basic ISK and be more useful for player corporations going forward. This is adding a significant amount of time to the MPE. Since we rolled out the initial change in September, we've actually seen a really good bump in medium first session length. So that's a super healthy sign, and that's really, that's giving us confidence that we're piping more players in and we're making them more efficient at what they do, and we'll continue to do that in March. But that's only like a small portion of things that we want to dive into in March. It is an important step on a longer journey that we're on for new players. But we'll dive into more details on this at FanFest. So yeah, I don't wanna eat up too much time on new players. I know that we don't have a whole heap of new players watching this stream, but what's important for
You guys want to be invited to talk in this channel here, the stage channel?
First blood, better game, and more,
raise your hand.
More fun.
Well, what's going on for the old players right now? Tell us something that's changing, or something that's being tweaked or game balanced or updated?
Yep. There's a mix of kind of low-hanging fruit, some unexpected changes, for sure, and some expected changes. And I think we can kick off simply with the uh, small, interesting change. Swift, do you want to explain what happened in the last,
Yeah, so
last few months?
we've been watching Bjorn B stream. Of course, we watch all of our Eve streamers. There's TVs around the office. And if you haven't been following along, he has been like put a renewed focus on like Poco warfare and stuff like that. And so we wanted to kind of tweak that up a bit because it's a system that hasn't been like super updated in quite a bit of time, and it's unfamiliar to some players. And PI is a huge part to EVE Online, right? It's involved in so
Planetary
many different
interaction.
aspects of industry. It's income for some players. It's single player, like just passive income for some other players.
Hello? I feel like you
So
cut
we
in
wanted to give it
halfway
some love.
into the sentence.
So
Yeah,
what the teams did,
sorry.
and this is pretty massive, is they kind of changed some of the mechanics coming in the next month or so for deploying the customs office gantries. So the gantries, if you've never had an interaction with them, good on you. But for those that have had interactions with them, they can be very frustrating, especially when you want to have combat surrounding them. And so the goal of the designers was just to make the combat or the combat like rewarding and engaging and have a point to the whole thing, and just kind of freshen that up a little bit. So the EHP, and this is probably the biggest change for the gantries.
So what's the dealio?
The EHPs of the gantries.
Oh,
which
we're
is
watching
the
the
a little bit of technical difficulty
CCP's
there. Anyone else
presentation
have
right now on
problems?
CCP TV.
Oh, man.
Yeah, turn that
Gotta
on.
look.
It's a watch party,
loud
and then after that we'll go.
We're going to keep going.
Do more.
It doesn't matter if they
You know
can't
it's my
hear.
side.
They'll just see our excitement. So the gantry
We can hear. I know.
HP is dropping from 10 million, which is where it's at now, a huge amount of HP, to 500,000. And shooting the gantry now, which is the thing again that goes on before the Poco goes online, especially relevant in HiSec. You'll be a suspect flag instead of a criminal action, right? So no one can play any games with their gantries now. If you win the fight on the Poco and you hold the grid, bam, you get your Poco down, and there might be even a bigger fight over the gantry instead of just content ending right there. So that's like just a tip of the iceberg there, but it is really, really exciting if you've done any PI stuff, or if you, like me, have been involved in some high-sec warfare for Pocos. So I'm really excited about that, and I can't wait to see what's going to happen in high-sec with these changes. I have a feeling
Certainly
a lot
an
of people are going to be
interesting change.
shooting some Pocos to
Can you
kind of
explain it?
rival the masters of Poco ownership that go on
Trying to
right
get some
now.
things done here.
One particular name comes to mind. I don't know
So
if we should mention it.
the way it works is
Yes,
that
good idea.
the planet has multiple
this.
grids. And so if you know exactly when the Poco
I think that's a
explodes, you can
really
just
cool
throw one
example
down
of
right away,
actually just
and then it's yours.
seeing
So they're making a
us,
change
like,
to make it
an
so that Pocos
opportunity
are
or
easier
a
to
small
destroy,
opportunity, but
and also they can attack the
it's
gantry.
still,
It just triggers a
in
suspect
many
flag.
ways, a passion project. You see, like, this could have come
Thank you.
from community. It could have come from someone playing the game. It's like,
Whilst
hey,
also
this is
massively
just something smart to do.
nerfing the
So let's jump
EHP of
on
them.
it and do it. And
Yeah,
I'm
like in half,
really
right?
happy
Yeah.
about this change, because it
I think that's close
sometimes
to
we
like
can fix
90%.
a big change can be a small change in some way. On that note, I just wanted to mention
Let me open the mixer so we can
the
hear you guys
DBS
a little
change that we
better.
did. I was following Reddit a lot on
What?
on the
It's okay.
forums
That
on
battle's a losing
on
battle.
just the DBS feedback, and it just spurred it into like, hey,
He
let's
can be
make
as
a
masochistic
solid
as he wants to be.
change on that. So that's also very interesting. It's a big change for a small thing change as well. So and even one more, the filament, the wormhole filament. That's something that had been a thorn in my side for some time. And I know better.
I think he's playing to the crowd here.
Very happy to get this back on track. It really had to change. It wasn't right for Eve to be this way. And
Teddy, what was this
I'm
change he's
very
talking
happy
about?
This change.
You can no longer filament from inside of a
Wait,
wormhole.
that's for Teddy.
Future.
Yeah, you can't filament outside of a wormhole.
Yeah,
you can still use the farm filaments
though.
though.
You on a little bit. What is okay? I'm really happy with my new convergence skin that I just got with the
Yeah, you can use
last
Abyss
event.
filaments, but not travel
But
filaments.
I heard there's an overall graphics update coming, and we'll be able to see stuff even better.
Yeah.
Is there any truth to that rumor?
There is a lot of
One
truth
guy
to
didn't
that
know about
rumor.
the
So
filament change.
we did the Bring Out Eve's Color update.
Oh, this
last
looks interesting.
year, and which was really great. It was a
Reflecting
it was
space.
a
No
series
way.
of changes that had to kind of there were like a lot of things that we had to kind of fix and tweak, and they all came together in that rollout last year. There was one thing that we didn't manage to really double down on, which was the reflections in Eve, or in technical
reflection
terms,
mapping.
the reflection probes, the little things that kind of create the reflections.
Monolith is going to look
So
different,
in
I bet.
March, we're actually updating the reflection probes, and this is going to be a huge
Seeing like
user
lasers and
update
stuff
to the
reflect
game.
off of a power zone would be pretty
This
cool.
basically means that we will start to see reflections of billboards, explosions, the nebula on our ships. And I think if I can ask the guy who's managing the stream to put something on the screen, so you can see.
I can explain a lot about this,
the
but it's a
on the
complicated
left,
thing,
you
so I'm
see
not
a
going to talk
Yeah.
over him.
beautiful blue explosion.
Yeah, let him get through it first.
Being really reflective on the ship. And if you go to the next slide, really quickly. So what's actually happening here is that, we're basically starting to pick up information from the scene to really kind of, make the ships feel more real.
That's really
make them
cool,
feel
though.
like kind of
It's
way
very subtle, but
better kind
it'll
of
do a
bound
lot.
into the scene, and you can see, the scene in the actual objects. So we're not picking up like other ships in the scene, but we're actually getting like large celestial objects, we're getting large stations and things like that. So this is going to be a pretty awesome change. There will be like few settings, and we're actually introducing a highest setting on this, which will allow us to actually update update every frame. So you will see, like you can see kind of the small sparks of the explosion flying up in the gold. But just looking at the old versus new here, this is a massive change, and will make the game even more beautiful.
2 questions on the Mac client.
Looks sweet.
2 is it's going to burn up my machine. It's a good time to have a good machine.
So we got a new.
It could be more demanding,
running
but
right now. Guardians Gala.
if
It's
they do it
back.
right, not that much.
This time it has an updated storyline that connects the Eve lore to new compression technology coming to Capsuleers. Tell us about that.
All right, compression.
Whose idea was it to connect the lore to the
Gala
to the changes?
Actually,
so
not compression.
this is a path that we've been on for quite a while now. We've been talking about this very actively for quite many years, in like how can we bring the depth and the lore of the game more into the center, and kind of make it feel like the world is evolving and the narrative is evolving the game. And this is something that we've gone really deep into this with, for instance, the invasion, where the lore really played a center part. And since then, we've really been kind of figuring out a good and healthy way to find a balance between, lore and system changes, and how the narrative can actually push for change in the game. And we felt this was a really interesting opportunity to really fold this change into the narrative, and allow the players to participate in the rollout of the feature.
So I've heard a rumor that that 31 kidnapped or researchers have been rescued from Gala sites so far, but only 8 have been returned to Outer Ring. Is this true?
I highly recommend that you return the scientists, because I think this change will have a huge impact on the game. And if you don't return them, I don't know if you're going to ever get compression in Eve. I mean,
my favorite part is that the Outer Ring Excavation Company offered a massive sum for return of their scientists, like 50 billion ISK to bring them all back. And Capsuleers are just like, I'd rather just hold on to this scientist in my cargo hold with like livestock and feedos, just to have some fun, see what he's getting us up to, hold on to him for a while. just love that the mentality from Eve players.
I'm just imagining the cargo holds. You have livestock, exotic dancers. These poor scientists just like, no, let me out. A Fito kind of, I don't know, rubbing up against him. It's a beautiful concept art. Needs to happen.
Okay,
But
well,
Like a perfect walking stations expansion.
purpose.
you're
He's
killing
such a
me.
fucking troll.
Okay, so how now?
Pat the researcher, Pat the Fato.
Assuming the researchers actually make it back to Outer Ring and the technology gets finished, can you tell us a little bit about what the players are going to get and maybe when? I know neither of you have been drinking beers, but can you leak anything?
I don't think if it's on the channel.
Compression is going to be it just expanded for everyone. It's really a strong concept that we want to deliver on and make sure that you can get a taste of compression early as well, and that it scales well into being something that's really critical, mission critical for veterans and nullsec as well. So we want, usually, like at least these days, we're trying to create career paths for players and make it so that you learn like the single step and then you take another step and a further step. So we've done this now, taking into account the feedback that we received, and actually giving the porpoise compression as well. So we're looking at the compression for
That's good.
porpoise, oracles, and orcas.
Porpoise.
Very nice.
And it's going to be instant. Like it's going to be the same functionality that we were used to with ore. It's going to be more elegant in the way that it's a fleet boost ability. So now if you're within range of an active Indy core, you whether it's a porpoise or oracle, you'll be able to compress based on that in the ability. So oracles will be able to compress moon, gas, and ore. Porpoises will press gas, and orcas will compress moon more and gas alone.
The purpose will do gas and asteroid.
Yes, yeah.
Orcas and rorquals will actually compress gas, ice, ore, and moon ore.
See how cool the oracle is.
Yeah.
But I think overall, the UX of this is much improved. It's actually way better than I like it more expanded than we thought was possible. And also, I think we're cramming in a nice UI UX update for the compression window itself. So we're very happy with this final product, and we're really happy to see this get into players' hands.
Yeah, and I see a few questions from chat, like they're wondering exactly what this is going to look like and what the ranges are and everything. The exact all that information you're looking for is going to be released on Singularity on Thursday for you to test and get feedback on. But really, just to answer the high level questions that you're asking, you just right click and hit compress. If you're in a max skilled Orca, that goes up to like 210 kilometers that you can compress by yourself. If you've been an EVE player for some time, you remember when their Rorqual kind of in its previous iterations had features similar to this, where you had to be like really close to it, shove it in there, it would like compress it up. But nope, you just compress by yourself as long as you're in the same fleet and this module is active. Right click, compress, no loss on compression. Like there's no like crazy stuff going on there. And if you were doing it in a station or a Citadel before, you can still do it there too. Like just right click and compress in there as well. So like just completely additive in terms of the features, not removing anything. And it's great. Like I can't wait to see how this is going to work for the rest of industry, because I know this is something industrialists have been kind of chomping at the bit for, being able to compress moon ore, being able to compress gas. Huge way to kind of grease up those supply lines.
So you're not moving the ore at all. You're not the Orca. You're some miner in the fleet. You're within range. He's got his cycle going. You just click on the ore in your own hold, choose compress. It's instant, it's lossless, and it's right there, and you don't move anything.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah, and it's beautiful.
Beautiful.
And even to add to that, we're actually also doubling the capacity of jet cans.
The compression change is really nice.
So yeah, it's just
okay. That's what a Rorqual can do, or an Orca. What about a porpoise?
They can now they now have a Indy Sino, Indy core, and they can compress gas as well. So that's a stepping stone towards the Oracle as
Nice.
a industrial.
Just gas?
Gas and asteroid.
Gas and asteroids.
Nice. Okay. Good. I like it. Sounds good.
You should. It's almost impossible not to like.
Well, speaking of impossible not to like, we'll find something in here. Hang on a second. All right. Let me challenge you on the next one. Mining's great. Okay, it's getting better and better. Rumors say that CCP is looking at making battleships great again. Is this true? What are you going to do to battleships?
Should we tell them, or
should we just end the stream right now and let them wait for it? No.
We've got a few minutes.
Yeah, I mean, battleships. We all love battleships. I mean, battleships were they're some of the most versatile ships in EVE. They're packed with legacy. They were the greatest thing. They were the aspiration for a lot of people. And throughout the years, like we've had bigger ships. We have had more massive ships, and battleship have kind of fallen, kind of in a strange in between. And this is something we definitely wanna change, and we wanna kind of upgrade them and kind of make them awesome again. So we're stitching together a couple of changes to battleships, and the first one is that we wanna increase the effectiveness of the armor plates by 50%, and then bump shield extenders by 100%. So that's a we'll definitely add to the juices of battleships. And we also wanna reduce the fitting cost of large micro jump drives to all battleships, and this includes faction, marauders, black ops, everything's. This is a pretty beautifully chaotic change, I think, and I'm super excited to see how this will change kind of the meta and what how players will kind of mess this up for us.
I'm going to put up a sheet that we're doing.
They had a survivability problem and a mobility problem, so we really just wanted to make them massively better on those fronts, and kind of now you have the tools to brawl again in some
These are
way,
the changes
catch
here
up,
that
not
Artemis
be
put
caught
together.
off by by that slowness. But this is a great change, but I don't think it's not the end of the line for these meta changes at all. We just really wanted to focus on battleships to get that out there, get them in your hands.
I wonder how many new shield passive shield
farther,
fits are going to be viable.
Which battleships does this apply to? Does it pirates, Navy, Tech 2, everything?
Yes, yeah, it goes all over the place. It even goes to, as CCP Burger was mentioning, even goes to Marauders, Black Ops battleships, anything that has battleship in the name and is battleship size. That's definitely getting these bonuses. So it is hugely impactful. And this is something that CCP Rattata, you had said, when talking about balancing battleships in the winter status update and on various podcasts, you're like, there's different ways to balance these things. We could make them cheaper to produce, but the option that you wanted to advance is making them more powerful to be worthy of the price tag, and the cost to build, not necessarily the is cost, but the material cost. And so yeah, just adding like a ton of survivability, adding a ton of maneuverability. Battleships are my favorite. I can't wait to see people just slugging it out in just abandons, rogues, everything.
Yeah, it goes to our anchor. The battleship is our anchor for it. It's that kind of transition point from subcaps to capitals. That's why we added the extra reaction. We wanted to make it like, here's a actual transition. This is what we balance around. So we don't want to mess with that composition. We really just want to make sure that everything else fits both under and above. So this is really important for us to really hammer that home.
But wait, that's not all. I think is probably like what we put in here.
Yeah, but before we do that, I wanted you to give a shout out to folks that helped you on this particular set of changes.
So there's like a lot of people that like went into this. Obviously, our amazing design teams are part of this. They're following like the vision that these like huge guys put forth for what's coming into Eden. The CSM had like massive fingers in creating some of these changes, not only in the changes themselves, but in like the prioritization of which changes come when. So a huge shout out to the CSM. And also, if you read this or if you heard what CCP Burger said about the plates adding extra HP, and you were like, hey, I might have read that before. You might have read something similar to, like that before. So huge shout out to Stitch Caneland, who was running for the CSM before. A nice little nod to him, because essentially this is one of the things that he brought forward as a great idea. And I think CCP Urtati will say this any chance he can get is like, if you can put in a well-reasoned thought about a change, then I'll happily listen to it. And this is like a great example of this like working in action.
100%.
Okay, so we're helping out Battleships here a lot, actually. That's a lot to think about. You've already got minds turning. But aren't there some other ships that maybe need a little bit of survival help too? What else you got for us?
It's been so a few months, quarters, years ago, we had to tack the survivability of capitals, mostly the super umbrella problem, and all that jazz with the surgical strike change. And now we feel that we're in a much better place from an economic standpoint, but also just on the meta itself, to actually kind of buff them back again. They don't need to be as brittle, I would say, in the new economy. So the big plan was simply to improve it back. So we reduced it by 100%, and we're bringing it back 50% now to kind of up all capital survivability.
So in context, it went from like 100% surgical strike hits, and it gets down to 50% of previous resists. And now you're bringing it halfway back up to what it was, so like 75%-ish.
Yep.
Yeah, when the surgical strike update hit, all the resistance modules had their resistance impact reduced by 20%, which is quite massive. It also had some other changes in that update as well. But like a huge, as CCP Urtati was saying, like a huge part of this was essentially this was like in the previous state, you could have force auxiliaries that were almost impossible to kill. And they were kind of a bane all over the place, not just in the large fights, but the medium and small ones as well. And so, yeah, surgical strike fixed that. But as the Eve players sit with a meta for a certain amount of time, they can kind of game it, min max it, figure out what's broken, figure out how to abuse things. So to keep things fresh, not only with the battleship changes, like surgical strike being rolled back. So instead of the initial 20% that it lost, it's now down to 10% from the original like 2 years ago. So basically all resists are getting resistier. I think that's a technical term. That's why they have me here.
Is that rigs and modules and everything?
Yeah, rigs, modules, everything. Active, passive, the whole shebang. Officer, faction, T21, T2 named. Just across the board, they're getting more resist. So your ships are going to be tankier.
Isn't
This
this going to
is some-
stack, though,
yeah.
with the battleships?
Yes, they'll be even tankier with this, which I think is going to be a resounding chorus of happiness in low sec. If I'm not mistaken, I think there's a lot of kind of. I feel that they will be happy. Wormholes probably as well a bit. So I'm hoping that it's gonna make some of the old engagements available again to those players, and also just kind of shake up the met, like the actual nullsec met, also with the increased power of battleships.
Wait, we didn't forget wormholes. We thought about them.
We
Just teasing.
in passing, we realized that wormholes would also be positively affected, and we decided not to pull it.
Okay. Sorry, I shouldn't make any wormhole jokes.
Yeah, they will come out and they will find you. They'll come out of their spooky wormholes and they will unleash vengeance upon you. Like
don't
that
think
happened
they
to me
don't
once.
already. Yeah. All right. Okay, so this is working for battleships, lots of ships. Wait a second. What about caps and super caps?
Yep, all of them and both of them in that way. But yes, your dreads and carriers are more survivable, and even if you want to risk a super, it's completely up to you.
All right. Well, you just said dreads and capitals, so I'm going to go with that for a second. A little bird told me that crab season is approaching. Did I hear you had tweaks for crab beacons?
Yeah.
Who wants to talk about that? Someone leak.
Yeah, I think Berg wants this one.
Do I want this one?
It's fine. I'm joking. Where basically the intent was to we had a price point in mind. Then obviously that's based on player feedback and like what players do. So it's a supply and demand thing as well. So we're reducing the cost of beacons first, and then increasing them as well. So we're putting a bit more raw ISK into it, and a couple of more modules if I'm not mistaken. Something interesting at least.
Yeah, the TLDR is like they're getting cheaper to make, and the rewards are getting tuned up higher. So now when you take your even tankier dread to run these sites, and you get swarmed by even tankier wormhole T3Cs, you're at least getting a lot more reward for that risk.
Okay, well that helps with the crab beacons a lot, but the real problem is what it takes to replace one of these dreadnoughts after they pop, because they pop, right? Can I get an amen? They do pop on these things. What are we going to do about how hard it is to build a dreadnought?
We are taking, so compression is the first step to actually alleviate all of the ores and minerals that you need. PI is still a bottleneck, and that's what we're focusing on with a follow-up iteration, because we can't really say what like date we think it's going to be balanced, and I don't want to create a kind of a market scare or anything like that. So I can't really speak to the date or the timeline, but it's absolutely something we are actively measuring and waiting for the opportunity to strike.
Yeah, I mean it's we definitely hear this feedback loud and clear. This is something that we're keeping a very active eye on. We want them out on the battlefield. We want them to wreak havoc. We want to, see well orchestrated dread bomb runs and things like that. So yeah, it's something that we're keeping a very close eye on, and yeah, you will see some updates very soon.
Yeah.
Meaning you want to see more dread bombs in space.
Yeah. So the the intent was with the blueprint changes that we wouldn't favor anything specifically when we changed the blueprint costs last year. So we wanted to keep the cost ratio between each of the capital ships the same, and not make any further adjustments. And now we want to make the strategic change to favor one over the other, and that's a completely different story. So at this point, we can choose the trade ratio in relative ISK in a new manner, and that will be up to us to pick that number in a fair manner where you're actually provide a proper Titan counter, for example, in a dread bomb, so not every dread bomb loses money in a trade. So it's not that black and white, but that's where we are focusing on.
Yeah, this is super important because like we were talking before, like the foundational changes needed for stuff like this. This is like more of the perks from that, because before we went through like tweaking with industry and stuff like that, the cost of a dread, the cost of a titan, the cost of a drake, like they were all kind of tied together. And now, as CC Rotati is saying, like we can like lower one of them without screwing up everything else. And that's like amazing that the designers have these tools, because now they can start working with these tools and coming up with these design choices. So like just exciting stuff, like being able to see dreads fielded, not have to just log off. It's okay.
Or get buried.
It's okay. Everyone has to do that every once in a while. My friendly snuffed out pilots.
Okay, now you mentioned blueprint changes. Those were your 2 words. I didn't make that up. Which blueprints are you looking at?
Any and all and somewhere in between. I don't think we're looking at the top end, because that's where we're okay with that at the moment. Of course, those prices should go down when manufacturing starts and there's more compressed materials flowing in the universe. But we're more looking at capitals, but we're not excluding carriers either. So I think carriers and faxes are there. We just like the Porpoise Orca Rorqual chain. I like the Battleship Marauder Dread chain as kind of something that is it's simpler in nature to run a dreadnought point and fire siege versus running carrier. So like for a new player getting into that, I think it makes sense to focus on that and then specialize into carriers as a mastery level of some sort. But we do want carriers in space as well, so that's important.
Okay,
But not predominantly in tethered structures.
Will this include faction?
Oh my gosh, I think I know what they're going to do.
Too much detail at the moment. It'll be clear. I'll use the fifth on this.
All right. I'm going to try one more time. Does that include Rorquals by any chance?
Rorqual prices, I don't imagine. I think they're okay. They are a powerhouse and they're being used, so they're pretty good. But like with battleships, we'd rather give them more stuff to do for the price they are. So the vaunted Rorqual jump is on its way, a conduit jump. We are very vested in both utilizing that technology, because it was something that we really wanted to rework. Like the harmonic start stuff is just it needs to be expanded and needed to be expanded from a technical foundation. But that also gave us a tool to say, hey, what if you can take a couple of new pros and mine with you on a cool mining adventure. And I think that's the fantasy that it fits. Like it always had a side note. Like it should have done it from day one, I think. But now is a great opportunity to say, like, you're taking the mama goose is taking the ducklings out to mine, and I think that's going to be just awesome. Like, but the key thing here is just to make sure that it can't be abused or exploited in some way that I can't imagine, but many of you could probably immediately do. So some kind of a procure nullsec meta sieging all over the, like, signing all over the place. But no, it's more about just being able to organize logistically and hauling.
Okay. Now you mentioned conduit jump. What can come with you? Can you bring another Rorqual? Can you bring a mining ship? Can you bring a hauling ship? Can you bring an orca, a porpoise? I mean, what can you bring?
That's like up. That's really up in, like, it's just being designed at the moment. I don't know those answers. I do know that it's more like the vision that we had was more on bring subcap friends. So I would assume it's up to Exhumers or something to begin with.
Yeah, well, you guys like the community will have a lot of like we'll be able to see it and kind of like put their impacts. If they say, hey, it's too strong bringing like X with you, then we can kind of look at that and make those decisions. Or, oh, it's not good enough until we can bring this, and here's why. Like those are the conversations that we always look forward to, just to hear like how you guys are managing to use this feature, how you're envisioning how this feature works. But really, just having a Rorqual being able to jump a bunch of miners around to that ease of logistics. So you don't need a bridge, you don't need to like go through gates through hostile territory or what have you. Like that's exciting, and I like the idea of it being in my head. It will always be like the Mama Duck feature, bringing the little duckling miners. It's just a perfect analogy.
That's a meme factory. Thank
Yeah,
you.
exactly.
Thank you, Ratari.
But you're not going to have the conduit jump for Rorquals ready on Thursday on CC like the compression is, right?
Yeah,
no, that's
correct.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, too soon. All right. Okay. Looking good, looking good.
They're announcing a ton of changes here.
Since you're leaking so well right now, let's try one more thing. There have been players over the past months who have, or maybe longer than months, who have mentioned that structures kind of need an update.
Here we go, boys.
Well, structures, meaning. Is there any chance we'll get any of that soon?
Wow, you're really, really like hitting all the balls here. I mean, New Eden changed quite significantly back in 2016 when player structures or upwell structures were introduced. And at the time, the complexity of this change was incredibly hard to predict. Like I mean, some of the most dramatic, insane Excel spreadsheets I've ever seen in my life happened, prior to that release. And since the release, we've done few tweaks and we've done numerous updates to them to get them into a healthier place. And we are looking at April right now to do the next set of changes to structures. We will mostly be focusing on some core mechanics and structure modules. But we'll go more into detail on this at a later date once we get closer to that once we get closer to that April date. But yeah, it's definitely really exciting and will shake things up.
Definitely. This we've already identified that how structures impact their environment is not always optimal. In nullsec, it's kind of like a lot of the combat has become predictable, and maybe defensible in some ways, especially with carriers. These are all topics that have been identified in a really solid forum thread that we took to heart. We went through it. We thought about the things that we wanted to do on the roadmap and kind of wanted to get completed, and we simply reprioritized. We felt that this was more important to tackle at this moment than those follow-up changes, which is something that we talked about in previous blogs, for example, iHubs. But when we need to change direction because of urgency or kind of powerful reasoning, I would say, we're happy to oblige, and this is where we see that we need to solve this holistically and improve it anyway. We have faction warfare citadels that kind of are out of place, and we have this iHub concept, and it all needs to work well together. So this is an opportunity to kind of really create like a bit of a longer term roadmap for structures and how they affect the world around them. And that's something that I'm very interested in talking about and FanFest, but also in the near term.
Okay, looking great. FanFest, okay. Anything else left to address before FanFest?
Is that not enough?
Like, it seems like a lot. Are you going to even have anything left to talk about in a keynote?
Oh, there is so much left to talk about in the keynote. Trust me. I mean, we've only been talking about things from now till FanFest in this stream today. So, yeah, this is setting us up for very interesting conversations at FanFest. Like I said earlier, I've already started building the keynote, and it's hitting a lot of slides right now. So yeah, plenty of exciting stuff to cover at FanFest. I'm super pumped about the next 10 weeks and the awesome stuff that we're rolling out and the changes. And I think this is these changes will be great seeds for conversation at Löðelsöll, and I think what we will talk about there will actually be, might actually rock your world even further.
Well, we've only got 10 weeks, so that's not very far.
No, it's not very far.
Okay.
Are you trying to what, like, make us feel better or feel worse? Was that like?
I'm excited. I'm excited. I don't have to do anything but show up and drink beer. But I mean, I'm excited.
I think this is plenty. There may actually be one or two things that we're holding back on, but it's good to have one ace up the sleeve. But this is really kind of the stuff that we really wanted to be focusing on. We have a clean slate. We have a better place to give rewards. We have better design principles to work from, and that's why we're confident that we can simply start improving, being creative, innovative of what we're doing, and adding stuff adding sand to the sandbox, as we're wanted to say.
Yeah, and I mean, there's a lot of the work that we went into last year is really starting to pay off. It's allowing us to push the boundaries further. It's allowing us to do things that we really couldn't do in the past. We're doing some, pretty significant changes, as you've heard, and we're doing it with great confidence and great excitement. People are super pumped about FanFest. Everyone is extremely excited to meet EVE players. There's a lot of EVE friends that I haven't seen since on the World Tour in 2019, and I can't wait to drink 3 too many beers with you and have 6 too many Brennivin shots. So that's going to be marvelous, glorious. I definitely want to ask everyone to jump on CC on Thursday and check out compression and the things that we're doing there. Like, we value your feedback a lot, and it's super important for this feature to be good. So yeah, just super pumped.
Jump on it. There'll be a feedback thread, I believe, on like with the precise numbers to expect, etc. And thoughtful feedback, of course, and courteous, appreciated. I just wanted to like hammer home 2 points. The narrative mention of folding events and introducing things together, like that is should be the EVE way, and it's something that we're really interested in doing. More storytelling, more NPCs, more fantasy, and the NPCs leave it behind. Like, I think that's a really strong and fun way to introduce things rather than on their own, in a way. And the second point is I would encourage everyone to or if you want, play the new adventure. We are using all of the bells and whistles for the new player experience. So there's graphical updates, there's amazing scenes and dungeons that kind of show you what the other dungeons might look like. Like all of that stuff is really us putting our best foot forward.
Yep.
And kind of imagining what the world would be with all dungeons looking like that, all NPCs looking like that. I think that would paint the picture of the vision that we have for the game going forward.
And like amazing, we're pushing the boundaries of what we can do with audio. We're pushing the boundaries of what we can do in dungeon creation. The NP work, even if we're focused on new players, there's a lot that's actually, will benefit the whole game. And the reflection probe that we talked about earlier, that's definitely driven by the NP work. So yeah, super exciting times. I mean, it's definitely been one of the most fun times to work
I get it.
on Eve, and I think that's definitely like mirroring in game.
Nice.
Yeah, and the quicker we go, or not quicker, but the more advanced we go with these new player, the Air NPE and the new player experience, the quicker we can hold retirement parties for the career agents, because their way of doing things was so last year. Now we've got new ways to do things and teach players all about EVE Online and getting them into like your corporations and your groups and your fleets.
All right.
Yep. They're the benchmark of what it should be. We want to roll out quality content over time, and career agents will be, they'll get their turn for sure. This is what I hear all the time. So we're definitely committed to that.
Yep.
All right, we want to wind up now. I want to say a big thank you to CCP Burger, CCP Ritati, CCP Swift. Thank you so much. Also, a big thank you to CCP Convict, who's producing today's show behind the scenes, desperately trying to follow the changing order and put the right things up on screen for us. Thank you, sir. Big thank you to the ISD volunteers who for doing chat moderation today. Also, a huge happy birthday to CCP Ritati.
Happy birthday!
We made him do this on his birthday. I love that.
Not
Thanks,
only my
Mia.
birthday, but my 15th
Yeah.
staff anniversary at CCP. I joined 15 years ago, 2007.
15 years.
This was a clever thing to do. Like you book the stream on Ratati's birthday. We're all like, soft and happy, and then you get us to like spill all the beans. Damn.
Exactly.
Nice.
Turner's
and
ways.
Just if anyone's like tuning in late, or you missed any part of this, or you just every time you look at this screen you just can't hear anything because you're just enamored, there's a dev blog coming out right after this that'll cover everything we just talked about, that you can read to your heart's content and kind of analyze. And then again, as everyone's been saying, on Thursday there'll be a more in-depth post about compression specifically and changes that are coming to Singularity. There was a Singularity mirror today on the test server. So if you've just made your account pretty recently, you'll still be able to access the test server to try out compression and everything that has to offer. We're really excited about it. And like everyone's been saying, we can't wait to see what this happens when we give it to you. This sand you guys are going to throw. You guys are going to make some amazing sand castles and sand cannons and sand abaddons with all this stuff.
Were you going to say throw sand in their eyes?
Yeah, but then I was like, I shouldn't say that.
Yeah.
I should not say that. Don't give them ideas. FanFest only 10 weeks away.
And speaking of FanFest being 10 weeks away, if you haven't signed up for it, here's the link. It's not too late. There's still spots on the pub crawl, which is my favorite. And actually, there's a new fancy version of it called the Gourmet Pub Crawl that was started out being for people who don't drink and just kind of went wild from there. Should be worth trying also. Actually, you can't try them both because they're at the same time. Let's see. Technically it starts May 6th. I recommend trying to get to Reykjavik by May 5th if you can. Early bird special tickets are still available. Guardians Gala is running today through February 2nd. Again, please help save the ore researchers so we can get this compression tech. If the tech has bugs, it's the fault of those of you who didn't help rescue the scientists. I don't want to hear it.
That's a perfect way to explain all bugs now. Just always have scientists that capsuleers keep.
Publicly shame people for not returning scientists.
Yeah, exactly.
I hope you feel
Passcode
guilty.
That's
researchers.
why we still have passcode. They haven't returned this passcode scientists.
CCP TV have some other great
They're in some
presentations.
hangar somewhere.
Yes, exactly. CCP TV has some other great presentations this week for you. At I'm guilty to say this, but at 2 p.m. at 0200 tonight, I'm hosting a weekly talk show called Carneros and Chill. We'll be very chilled tonight. 1900 on Wednesday, ISD Deloro is hosting the EU time zone slow TV stream. 1500 on Friday, CCP Alpha is hosting the Russian Rush Hour. Say hi to him in chat. He's here watching. But that is fantastic. Even if you can't speak Russian, it's a great stream. On Monday at 0030 in US time zone, ISD Durham Barsterload is hosting a US time zone slow TV stream. Great stuff. Great stuff. Okay, that's all we have for today, but I want to invite you to stay with us as we raid over to Talking in Stations, where they have been shaken out of bed and handed a cup of coffee. Also, we will get the bot working again for the Galnet streamcast.
All right, hang on,
Getting
guys.
a
They're
cup of
coming
coffee
over.
is an extremely good idea.
Thank you for
Right?
earning low
I wish I'd thought of it a minute ago. All right, well, here they come.
It would be nice.
All right, you've been watching. Well, we'll wait just a few minutes for people to arrive, then we'll get to reminders about what they announced, and then we'll have a discussion about it. Inside this room, you are the lucky ones. You get the live audience, you get a chance to participate, and we'll also talk. You get the live audience, you get a chance to participate. Probably be good if I mute it up. Okay. Hey, wow, big crowd. Thank you for coming over. This is Talking in Stations now. Let me move this out of the way. We're going to go over what they just talked about, have some reactions from you, and let you have a little bit of your say in this. Let's see. We made a whole list as they were going. So I am joined by you, the audience. If you want to participate, we have a channel. I'll go ahead and put this into our stream here. So jump into Talking in Stations Discord. We're in a stage channel where we have a few guests that are going to be talking, and then we'll invite questions and we'll invite you to speak as well. You can sit and lurk if you want. We're also going to broadcast it all live, so you get a chance to participate in that way as well. Okay, cool. So we'll be looking at both chats. If you're in this online stage, go ahead and type inside of the public voice text channel. We'll try to take questions from there if you want to just lurk. All right, so let's invite a couple people up to talk. Oh, CCP Paragon's here. I think if you want to lurk, that's fine. If you want to speak, raise your hand. There's ways to do that. We're going to take a few people at a time, and we're going to be cycling through people. So please don't be offended if you come and go. The idea here is to get people to come in and participate without it becoming just one voice. Okay, so let's go through some of these changes that they talked about. Raise your hand if you want to talk about that as well. All right, the first thing that they did, this was supposed to be a FanFest stream, and they delivered a bit more than that. CCP with CCP Burger, who is the visual designer and the executive producer of EVE Online, and Ratati, CCP Ratati, who's actually in charge of the ecosystem, that is the health and balance of the game. Those two guys, very important to the overall direction of EVE Online. And with them, you had community member CCP Swift, also known as, formerly a very big player named Elise Randolph. And you had Carneros, who is currently a very big player, and he was guest hosting for them on CCP TV. It's a great show. Check it out. Check out their VOD if you get a chance. one of the things they did, they went beyond what was going to happen at FanFest. They actually told us what was going to happen before FanFest, and that's what we're looking at now. Yeah.
It was the Road to FanFest stream. The Road to FanFest was the dev blog that they put out a few weeks ago that explained all the different things that they were going to be working on before FanFest. So this was all the details from that. Like, now they've fleshed out those details.
Right.
I just want an actual thing called The Road So Far, just so I can play the music.
Okay, so the point here is that the stuff that they talked about today isn't what they're going to announce at FanFest. They're actually going to announce more at FanFest, but this is stuff that they're preparing to. Let me get some people in here so you can see that. All right, there you go. So all this stuff should be live before you even get to Iceland. And then in Iceland, they'll make more announcements about other things. So we'll see about that. So here we go. Industry mining integrated into the AIR NPE, and that's coming in March. So Ash, you can explain AIR better than I can. What is that?
Yeah, it is the Association for Interstellar Research. It is a relatively new lore entity that was founded by a former member of the SOE, and of a different group that I can't think of right now. But either way, they are the group that CCP's kind of created to do two things. They introduce new technologies, but also they have an entire branch to training new pilots. So since the introduction of AIR, they have put in a new tutorial, which they seem very, very proud of. And in that tutorial, you interact with AIR. If you go to any of the rookie stations, there'll be AIR stations or rookie systems rather. There'll be AIR stations there.
Okay, cool. So a significant increase in duration of NPE, good bump in first session time since AIR NPE was introduced. Those are, the good bump is talking about good population bump. In other words, it looks like it's popular. Significant increase in duration of NPE. Do we know what that means?
That means people are continuing through the NPE longer, right? The
duration.
Previous
okay.
NPEs, right? The duration of play. The NPE is both more engaging in the fact that it's voice acted and there's kind of cool visuals right away, but also it's relatively short. Like unlike the Inception NPE previously, which was like 2 to 3 hours to complete, the AIR NPE is not that long. It's like maybe a third of the length, if not less than the Inception NPE. So it's kind of this engaging, punchy thing that gets them into the game, but it still drops them off at the career agents, which everybody kind of laments this fact. And so what they're saying is that they're building out the new way that this is going to extend into teaching people the game, but they're just working on the mining path first. So if you want to think about it, this is like the mining career agent replacement.
Okay, cool. So some of that is feedback. Some of that is stuff that they're looking to improve. Changes in the POCOs. This looks like it was a change that was brought about by obvious shortcomings of the player-owned customs office. That's what that is, the POCO. And that is due to a war that just broke out between the forces that own most of those POCOs they were defending and the people who were attacking those and trying to take them over. And those people were fans of Bjorn Bees. So it looks like that led to some obvious changes. What do you think?
Yeah, they're pretty sensible changes. I think it removes a lot of trolling in high sec. So previously, if someone else killed a POCO, you could like ninja put down your own custom gantry, and then they wouldn't be able to kill it because they would have to like war deck you, and it would take like 24 hours for them to war deck it and get rid of it. So now a big change is once someone drops a gantry, it's going to have a lot less HP, and anyone can shoot gantries now. It just gives you a suspect timer.
Yeah. Do you think that was brought? Do you think that, because this change kind of comes out of nowhere as far as I'm concerned, but there was a really high profile war against POCOs recently. Do you think those have to do with one another?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of CCP guys have been watching Beyond B play, and it's been frustrating for some of them. I think CCP Signal, who's an engineer at CCP, was watching Beyond B and got like really frustrated, so he wanted to like fix a bunch of stuff about them.
Is that how it works? If it is, you know what to do. You need to get involved in the game, play it, and play it in a spectacular way, and you will get attention on that.
Is that why they call us influencers?
You two guys, yes.
No,
right.
like this has been a thing for a long time, right? Like I've even used this shenanigan on multiple occasions in order to hold the Pocos in Fleet, because the way it works is like the planet has multiple grids, right? So you could actually have your hauler on a different grid than the Poco that they're shooting you at, and as long as you got eyes in both places, as soon as that place goes down, you can drop your gantry, and if they're lackadaisical about theirs, then yours is going to go up first, and nobody can do anything about it. So having people outside of the war deck be able to participate in taking out the gantries will allow coverage in a much cleaner way, where the people can be focusing on the fight and having neutral alts on the other grids, keeping being ready to take out the gantry if it goes down.
There's going to be an onlining delay too, right? So how the fights would probably play out is you would destroy a Poco, and then maybe some guy tries to ninja up a gantry, and then you can just warp over to the gantry and shoot it. You'll take suspects.
Extending the anchoring time? I didn't catch that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
We're joined by CCP Swift. He was just on. You know him. Everybody knows him. How you doing, Swift?
Hey, good. I just wanted to. I mean, Suetonia answered the question before I could even pop in. So Suetonia is a genius, and also like this is one of the things where the CSM has a lot of input on. Like I know that I saw some people saying like, "Oh, how come this happens? PRB gets into a problem, they fix it." It wasn't that. It's like we were looking for like things to fix that were like I don't want to say easy, but like we had the time to do that would impact a lot of people. And just in that math, like, oh, tweaking Pocos a little bit, not like solving the problem and putting a mission accomplished banner up, like just little quality of life changes to make life a little bit better. And this is something that the devs were able to put together.
Very nice cover, because was it people who did Planetary Interaction were a little bit had mixed feelings when Hilmar said, I played PI and it was really horrible clickfest, so I fixed it. No, was it him that did that?
Yeah, I think I remember that exact one. Yeah.
And people were like, oh, is that what it takes? Well, then play your game and then fix everything. And so this whole thing went on. But very good cover. You guys are looking for things to fix, and that's how it's working out. All right.
I do want to stress that this was like a thing as part of Poco conflict for a long time, and as high-sec Pocos have become, the Bjorn B's situation is just kind of the culmination of a continuing conflict. This has been a growing issue. This just brought it to like a broader light.
All right. We're also joined by CCP Paragon. How you doing, Paragon?
What's up, guys?
And Abby Rova from TIS jumped in as well, so that's who we'll stick with for a bit. By the way, Swift, good job. That was a really good stream. You guys gave out a ton of information about some of the changes that are going to happen before FanFest, hopefully before FanFest. And I got to say, there's a lot of stuff that people wanted in this. I don't know. Is that good or bad? What do you think?
Yeah, I think a lot of this was already covered in the winter status blog. So some of those things are being clarified on specifically what they are, such as the battleship and the new compression that was delayed. But this has been on the hit list for quite a while. So we just had to get industry done. And now that that's done, we can just move on to things that are fun. Obviously, there's a bunch of things that need to be iterated on, and we are well aware of what they are by just listening to you guys.
Oh, okay.
But I think it's good.
Yeah. So these are more details on the promises made, more or less, in the winter.
Yeah, and then obviously for the other big one structures and the citadels themselves and their support structures. That's coming in a later release. As to the compression, we'll go more into that probably like a month from now or so.
Oh, cool. Okay. So here's another thing after the POCO changes, which are very exciting. We'll look into those. Also, I heard them, dropping their EHP or the HP, the hit points lower, will make them something that you have to fight over a bit more. In other words, it'll be easier to destroy them. I think I heard some excitement about that.
Yeah, the gantries used to have 10 million shield HP, which is the gantries, the thing that come down before the POCO. It's it came in an era of EVE Online where like POSs and POS shields were like the norm. But when you're talking about like high seg stuff, 10 million HP is insane. Like there's just when a gantry comes down effectively, people are just like, I give up. Like I'm done. So lowering that to 500,000.
Yeah.
It's my understanding that the gantries were never designed to be a target. It was just a mechanism to allow you to have to put in the PI to activate the POCO.
Yeah, that's a great example of like how something is designed and then how players use it. Players were like effectively using these to block planets and things like that.
All right, cool.
So we just gotta roll with how the players work it instead of trying to force them into like a design paradigm that someone thought up of.
So from a player perspective, these POCOs at first were NPC items or NPC controlled, and you just paid a 5% tax, I think it was, and you got your PI off the planet. You were basically mining planets. And it was really just a deal between you and the planet and NPC, and you were just paying your tax. But then CCP said, you know what, players can own these. And the customs offices, the COs, became POCOs, player owned. And at that point, it was a Wild West for a while. A lot of different people owned a lot of different POCOs all over the place. And then it consolidated to about how many groups? 2 or 3? Anyone know? Okay,
I've seen some high-sec groups that like kind of controlled it for a long time, right? Like I think Pirate had a corporation that held like half the POCOs in high-sec.
Yeah, group of pirates inside of high-sec. There were mercenaries you could hire to protect your structures or destroy somebody else's, and they were very good at it. They also did POCOs. But there are a couple groups that really specialize in POCOs now, and I think they've kind of divvied up the POCO landscape, which may have been why Bjorn B decided that was the war to take, because to break up kind of a monopoly, but we'll leave that to him. So I think that's very interesting. Let's move on though to something that looks really neat. It's going to be a subtle change in the artwork, but I think subtle changes add up to beauty in EVE Online. So let's take another look at this. You're going to see on screen lighting effects that are reflective of the atmosphere that you're in. So if there are flashes and explosions and sparks around you, that's what you'll see reflected on your armor plates, which is pretty cool.
So can I go a little bit into what this kind of is from like a wider game design kind of thing?
Sure.
Like reflections and all that stuff?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so lighting, as it turns out, is hard. Like one of the hardest things as far as like calculations go, because every single ray has to be calculated and all this sort of stuff. So solving lighting problems has always been one of the biggest technical issues in like the rendering engine. So what you have is a solution that involves what's called reflection probes. So rather than any given item like having to figure out where it is and all of the lighting according to it every frame, you have the reflection probes, and they do their own processing, and then all of the objects within the area can utilize the reflection probes or blend 2 reflection probes together in order to just get its own reflection. So that way every ship can quickly pull those reflections. Now, originally, like again, that's still a big calculation all the time. And so you would use like gross lighting, right? The sun, the things that are there doesn't change very much, maybe just flickers and stuff, which is why we saw like the lighting right now is really cool, and you even can see things like the nebula on it, but that's because the nebula is always there, right? There's not very much reflections off of what's happening right now, besides like an explosion, which is a point light. So what this is doing is that the reflection probes are now pulling in way more data. So they're putting more accurate reflections onto the ships without taking any more processing.
Big question I saw, is this going to affect tie-dye?
Tie-dye is mostly...
Let's let Paragon answer that one.
Yeah, so CCP Burger mentioned the new highest graphics setting, which covers this new lighting technology. So you can turn this off if you're in tie-dye, which you probably would anyway. So that shouldn't be an issue. It completely disables it. There should be no added lag from that, or yeah.
So you can opt out if you want to, if your computer is having a hard time with it.
Yeah.
Wouldn't the LOD also do that? So that way, if you're zoomed out, it wouldn't be processing reflection probes anyways?
I'm not sure exactly how it works, but it's similar with the other LOD. It does what you're describing already. I'm not exactly sure if it does it for this specifically, but I'll ask. I'll let you know.
Yeah, so that's one of the concerns when you get into a big fight in EVE Online. If your client is bogged down by a ton of, well, it used to be much worse, but a ton of information, your client could crash. They built the 64-bit client, and largely that problem went away since your 64-bit client's able to use a lot more RAM. And so the client side has been kind of solved. The question is, has the server side of a lot of people fighting at the same time, has that been eased? And to a great extent, it has. And you saw that last year when you had massive fights, tens of thousands of people involved, but thousands of people inside the same system fighting it out. And largely, most of the year had good stability for big fights. So when you add graphic requests and things like that, does it affect that kind of gameplay? And that's when, so anytime we love the graphics, but anytime graphic improvements come aboard, players want to know, is this going to mean that we can't all pile into the same system and fight?
Yeah, we mentioned that like the last couple of years, we've spent a lot on the foundation, and that includes the technical foundation as well. So when it comes to fleet performance and just server performance in general, we are working on a blog that covers the technical updates. I think the last one we did is like, I don't even remember, like 2016 or something. And there have been major updates, not just to code, but to the hardware as well. So yeah, hopefully we'll get that into your hands like really soon. I'm talking like next week, hopefully.
Wow.
To go over some of that stuff. But yeah, no promises. But we're working on that right now to show exactly that.
That's ready.
I've been working with Katia Say a lot recently on like the Eve Traveler series, and I'm delighted to see this because it's great to have those reflections. I think that'll really like make space look a little bit more alive. Like seeing more things reflect in your ship. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to what that looks like in game.
I hope you don't have to reshoot all your footage. You did great job before, but going forward. Yeah. So speaking of Katia Say, if you guys haven't seen the series New Eden Travelers, you should check that out. It's on YouTube. Under the channel is Katia Say, S-A-E, 2 words. And you should see the Traveler series. There's 2 episodes out, and it's about exploration. It's filmed beautifully, and there will be more episodes coming out. It's a series, so make sure to check that out. All right, speaking of lore explanations and events for upcoming changes, you need to return. This is from Guardians Gala, which is on now. It's the current event. It's usually the Valentine's event. And it's on now, and you need to rescue some scientists and some, what are they, items for compression?
Yeah, there's ore data fragments. And if you take those ore data fragments to the ore facilities in nullsec, then you can trade them in their LP stores for the new compression module skill books.
Yeah, those are basically the bounties. Hey, Swift, have you been watching people play this, or have they? Do we know how popular it is compared to previous events? Too early to tell.
I was muted. Damn. It was super popular based on just how many people were running specifically the data sites. Like a lot of people were doing that because obviously you're talking about new skill books. A great way to make early money, especially if you're one of the first people at it. When it comes to the VIP sites, the harder sites that are in wormhole space, dropping ore scientists up for like $1 billion each, like. A lot of people want to be the first ones there to get their billion, or just to, as it turns out, hoard onto these poor ore scientists. So it's quite popular. It is a lot harder than some of the other sites, specifically the ones more recently, like the Interstellar Convergence. Obviously, the end game, like the end levels of the combat sites were very challenging, and the end levels of the exploration sites were very challenging, but they had easier elements. Like just everything about this is pretty hard, and I think EVE players also love a challenge.
There's a piece to this that I think doesn't get appreciated, which is I think there's 4 different stations that you can take these to, all in nullsec.
Yeah,
so
4CTAC and NMOEA, I think, are the
sorry, only
the
2.
ones.
Yeah. So that means that like getting the ore scientist is probably the easier half of the process.
All right, so we're going to get to the big one here. We should probably spend the most amount of time with this. We can do Q&A here. If you guys have questions, come into Talking in Stations Discord or write them in chat. We'll try to get them asked. We have CCP Swift and Paragon with us, along with Sutonia, CSM, an expert player, really, along with Ashtarothi and Abby Rova. All right. Paragon, looks like you want to jump in.
Yeah, no. One thing we didn't mention as well on this segment in particular is the way we introduce new things coming into the game, which is tying them into an event and making it a part of the lore. Like personally, I've never liked it. Like someone casts a spell and now we have this new ship in the game. I think it's way cooler when it gets introduced like that, and it becomes a part of the story of how this new thing, becomes a part of EVE. And that was really cool to see take shape in-house, and just they've talked about it for a while, so now we're kind of pulling the trigger of this being a thing, and that's cool.
Yeah, you're right.
What I find unusual about this conversation, though, is that like the idea of having in-game events tying to like what's happening, or like the new mechanics coming out is nothing new. Everything from like the T3 Cruiser event to various drifter things, all the way to the Edencom structures that came under attack and we had to deal with right before the Edencom tech was released. Like it's nothing. It's not that new. What's unique this time was that they went to one of the events that are more regular and also less lore connected, and then tied that to what was happening right now. Normally those events are separate.
Exactly.
All right.
I think you got it there.
Good point. So let's move on to compression here to get through this material. One of the things that was announced today, the Porpoise, Orca, and Rorqual all get instant compression. I'll just read through this list and then we'll come back. You have a fleet boosting ability within a certain range. You can compress in your own cargo. So these command ships can boost you to compress. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yep.
Good. Rorqual can compress gas, ice, and moon ore. Changes hitting CC on Thursday. That's exciting because that's a test center, so you can go and start to play with this on Thursday. There will be no loss on compression, which means you won't destroy any ore. You'll get the full amount compressed. The jet can capacity is doubling. That has an amazing story behind it. And what that is, when you eject anything from your cargo, it becomes a jet can. And that jet can is 27,000 cubic meters and has been since the beginning of the game. And apparently that is doubling.
27,500. When we were doing research for the Interstellar Convergence, all those like research tickets, we learned about how things can get bigger on the inside. And so now, yeah, jet can capacity is doubled.
This is one of those Bugs Bunny tents, right, in the desert where you walk in and it's actually a gigantic city in there.
I'm very fond of my Doctor Who joke, but it's actually not canon, so don't tell anyone that I said that out loud.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's Planck generators because it tells you if, a Planck generator inside of a Planck generator. But what I find even more funny is the reason why jet cans are the way they are is because they were originally not intended for players. They were just a dev tool to be able to put something into space that they forgot to remove. But it was so effective as a tool for the cooperation of the team, mining group, that it was embraced. So this is the little dev tool that could, like.
Last thing, Porpoise will have an Indy core that we didn't know about and can compress gas, which is key because that small ship, it's the smallest of the command ships for industry, can go into wormholes relatively easy compared to the other two much bigger ones. And gas is in wormhole space. And asteroids as well, so it's not limited to gas. That's kind of cool. So, okay, let's take questions on compression and from the audience. And also, do you guys have any comments on it?
So there are some, I'll just chime in before people have questions, just in case I can answer them early. They're like everything, all the information you are looking for, like how exactly is it going to be, what's the ratio, all that is going to be out on Thursday. The teams are putting have put together a detailed dev blog, but we want it to hit exactly when the Singularity update is. There are new skills involved for this, as you can see, just because it's now a fleet boost ability, as you called it, and the ranges are actually pretty drastic. I know some people were like, "Oh, we'll take." When these hit Hobo Leaks, people are like, "Oh, we can do compression in space. That's cool. I guess I'll have to just be 2,500 meters from a Rorqual and instantly compress." But nope, you could for a Rorqual, max skills, max everything. It's going to take you a while. I think it's something like 200 plus kilometers, 216. But you're not going to be scrubbing it if you're on a Porpoise. It's not like you're going to have to be within 5 meters or something. It's still something like 30 or 40 with a Porpoise. So really a lot of room to do the compression for it.
And I would be correct in saying that we just had a small little error on that note list, and the Rorqual can compress asteroid ore as well, right?
Yeah, the Rorqual and Orca can both compress everything that we can allow compression for, which is ice, asteroid ore, moon ore, and gas. So the Rorqual and Orca can both do everything, which if you remember from the initial pitch of compression last year, the Orca specifically couldn't do moon ore, but we decided to give that guy a little buff. So the Orca is strictly better in every sense now. It can mine faster than it could before, just 2%, but still it's 2%. It's beefier, it's got that Indy core, and now it can compress everything.
All right, let's have a first question. Go ahead.
This is the dark horse of this feature. The lead is buried here because everybody's looking at the lossless compression, all that stuff. The big thing for me, and will affect other bigger markets, is the compression of moon ore in high sec.
It's an industry overall.
Right. So even with the way that the compression was announced originally, moon ore was not going to be compressible in high sec. Nothing in high sec would have been able to compress it. So you would have to move it into low sec to compress it, or into wormhole space, which meant that where you needed to use the stuff, because reactions also couldn't be done in high sec, was necessarily different than where you were mining it. And so there's this huge logistical problem that people had to solve. But by adding moon compression into high sec, Now the massive mining capabilities of HiSec can be realized. They can compress that moon goo up. It can go out to where it can be reacted, and we can start getting capital core temperature regulators and core temperature regulators and all these other things that come from those things produced cheaper.
Here's a question from Couture.
So what's the train on this new Indie core for a porpoise? Because I always understood the porpoise as the, like, when you decide you're going to be a miner, you get a porpoise, then you get an orca, then you get a rorqual, so on, so on. Like, and the tiers of progression in mining are pretty, I'm gonna say, like, bollocks. You get a mining barge, and then you go on to an exhumer, and you've removed the porpoise from the equation now for a new bro by introducing this Indie core. Could you not just add a new ship in between the porpoise and the orca? You know, repurpose the porpoise's sister that's pretty much useless right now as for this. And this
Just say purpose for the porpoise.
New blows to boost, and then have another ship that boosts and compresses.
I mean, you can
by adding 45 days or whatever it is on to train, that's literally removing it as new bro friendly, or whatever the skill is going to take to train.
You can still
fly a porpoise, capability, right?
Wait, sorry, you just went over each other there.
Yeah, so for compression, you have to be using the industrial core. And so the porpoise is going to get an additional module called the medium industrial core that you can then fit on your ship to be able to do that. But you can still do the boosting as you could, like previously, unchanged. Like the getting into a porpoise is not going to change in terms of skill requirements.
But to use it to its full effectiveness now is going to be a significantly longer train, though.
Yeah, it's got further to grow now.
If you want to do more stuff with the ship, yeah. I think that's like a bit sensible to do. I mean, but because the porpoise isn't the extension of the Hulk, right? The porpoise is the entry to the orca, which is then kind of
that's what I was saying.
Rockwell.
Usually once you decide you're going to get an orca, or not an orca, an exhumer, you usually will just decide to think about, okay, do I need to start a boosting character? You know, I just thought it'd be better as an in-between thing, but you know, you guys are the devs.
Okay. I'm not actually, but the people who actually made the decisions.
Here's a dev, CCP Psych. We'll bring him up in just a second. He's invited to speak. Thank you, Couture, for your question.
Oh boy.
Mel has Mel's here for a question. Go ahead, Mel.
Yeah, I was going to say, just following up on the orca thing, you don't, if I remember rightly, you don't need the skills to fit an industrial core to even fly an orca. This is all new stuff, so that's, you know, it doesn't affect how long it takes you to sit in the thing. But anyway, yes, my actual question is in regards to the choice to not allow the porpoise to be able to compress everything like its bigger brothers can. Was there a specific internal decision about that, or is it just about scaling or anything like that? Because you know, moons are a thing in wormholes, and the porpoise always did feel that it was very much targeted at wormholes.
Who wants to take that one?
I think CCP Psych is muted. From my understanding, and I might be corrected in just a couple of seconds here, but it's like the porpoise was meant predominantly for gas, for instances where you don't want to risk your orca, or you don't want to risk anything bigger, but you still want to, you know, be able to compress gas. So if you want to, like, a day trip and you don't have the capacity to field an orca, then you can still get gas out of those areas of space.
Right. So rather than it being, you have a moon puncher in wormhole space, you would probably then field an orca. The porpoise can, however, also fit in frigate holes, which makes it very unique amongst the industrials. And generally, you would only want to put a boosting ship through a frigate hole if you were going to be mining one of those rare C6 ice fields, the shattered ice fields.
I was going to say, I thought that the porpoise was originally designed to go into shattered wormholes.
Yes, it was. I would always run links on gas though, because it makes it so much faster. But yeah, the main issue, like, pull of the porpoise is that it can go through frigate holes. It's also a lot smaller and a lot cheaper than an orca.
So being able to compress ice would make sense.
That's a good point, actually. Well, I mean, that's a big reason why the big draw of shattered wormholes versus normal wormholes is that shattered wormholes have ice. And so wormholers like to plunder shattered wormholes for ice.
Well,
yeah,
we have
I don't have any like
psychability now.
super insights into this. I'm aware like the designers know how the game works, but maybe they just decided that for right now it doesn't need that ability. Like ice doesn't need to be compressed. There's already a ton of ice coming from it's like being pumped out. If you look at the last, I think the December MER, the amount of ice that's being produced like mined in game, like we've increased it 6-fold over the last few months.
Wow.
So a lot of ice to be had.
It's a trade-off, because obviously if you allow porpoises to compress ice, then they're going to become the main thing used in high sec because they're so cheap. So if you allow that, then you also kind of skew high sec mining.
True, especially seeing as the Orca changes. Also, I've noticed a drastic decrease in either bot or multiplexed Orca fleets, just because of the ability for the Orca to actually mine having been quite heavily nerfed.
A message from Abby Rova that the ice prices have really never been lower. I haven't looked myself, but yeah, so I guess the trade-off. Sounds like you guys are answering your own question, but it was a really good question.
Yeah, it super is, and like this is the great type of conversation that we're like actively listening to, like as players like break down what's coming exactly and like what it means, how they can abuse it, like even limitations on it. So that's definitely something that we hear you on.
Well, thank you, Mel. If you have another question, come right back up. Come up as many times as you want. All right, CCP Psych, how are you?
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes, good mic test.
So that was a misclick. But yeah, I want to go back to the original question about the purpose, because it's a very valid question, and the answer is very. You could say it's very simple. So we made a lot of changes for the Rorqual and the Orca. We kind of restructured them to the command ships that they were supposed to be, industrial command ships. So we kind of, toned down the mining capabilities, and we're just following up on that with the purpose. So that is the simple answer.
Okay, was that the training question you were referring to?
There was the question about, for new brews and how they get into the purpose about mining. And what we're doing is we're making the purpose a good introductory ship for someone that wants to be, in the industry command ships. So it's still an introductory, because now you will get to the understanding of what it is to use an Indie core and what it is to use the new compression module. So it's that stepping stone of you getting into the industrial command ships, because that is what those ships will be from now on. That's their role. Bye.
Don't go anywhere. If you can stay.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, if you can stay. If you have to go, that's okay. I know it's getting late over there. All right, so this is overall exciting news. Let's review a little bit. The command ships will be able to compress without any losses, and that Rorqual and the big ships, the Rorqual and the smaller brother or sister, the Orca, will be able to compress anything: ice, gas, moon ore, normal ore. And the Porpoise, on the other hand, is the smaller little brother or sister, and that ship can only compress normal ore and gas. So, Teddy, if you're here, is this something that wormholers would be excited about, since that's a place that you and Abby dwell?
Could you just repeat the start of that question? Sorry.
Yeah, the Porpoise being able to compress gas, is that appealing to you, or is that something that null sec or low sec people coming into wormholes are going to benefit from rather than you guys?
No, I think it's nice. Obviously, like just being able to save mass if we're using like Hulk fleets or anything like that to like just compress and through our statics. It's a nice change. It's just a nice little quality of life.
I think coupled with the mining barge gas modules and changes and stuff, it's actually a nice like fit for a fleet. Now you'll have your, you can have your porpoise boosting your coveters, and you're going to be really and compressing it, and that's going to be very efficient gas harvesting. It puts more ISK on the field, which is nicer for PvP people trying to kill them. Yeah, I'm very happy with that change.
All right, cool. Before we move on to Battleship, is there anything else on compression? If not, I'm going to drag Caleb up here and ask him to be a dissenting voice about the compression and loss. That there is no waste in this. As the ecosystem has looked at this, is this the right move to make compression have no stuff falling out of it? Well, let me phrase that better. Compression having no loss in it means that whatever you're compressing, you get 100% of it, not a percentage of it.
Well, there's a piece to this though, which is that well, I guess for some compression, but there is also a new skill that we haven't really talked about, which is that they're introducing a gas decompression skill. So you don't lose it on the compression process, you lose it on the decompression process, right?
Interesting.
This is all carrot, right?
But that's because
it's
refining.
nice, and it's not in the right direction. Going from 0 strain and then having like, what was it, 3 days to do moon stuff, to now back to 0. This is not healthy. This is like all the problems with the ecosystem in EVE Online is about battling the lure of quality of life changes, because I understand that people don't want to do things that they call tedium, but you need to have speed bumps, you need to have loss, you need to have destruction, and you need to have sinks. Without sinks, it just completely breaks the game. And the solutions that we've seen over the past 3 years have not been very effective. They've not been put in what I would consider the right place. We went from austerity to now quantitative easing, and the whole economy is going to suffer. This is not going to resolve anything. We need to start talking about the core and the fundamentals, and something like compression was actually one of those cores, because over the past 10 years, EVE has gone to so streamlined that this is going to feel like straightening out the Autobahn and then complaining about people speeding on it. It's like, this is not healthy.
All right. Do you have a question? Nope.
That was my favorite interaction of anything ever.
I remember listening to you go into the difference between tedium and it's being someone's career, and for example being the hauler who puts in the work to get these resources from A to B. And I agree, like that's like the point is not to remove that, like even if you can compress this now, that doesn't mean that it's going to be non-existent to have to do work. Like you still have to do work when it comes to industry. It's just the pathway is just slightly different. So if you are okay, I mean, all right, like that's a fair opinion. But
if you consider the ease of logistics now compared to in the past, and infinite slots in industry, the incentive to just centralize everything and internalize everything is massively high. There is no motivation to share the load, to outsource stuff, to collaborate with other entities, or to compete with them. It's all just internalizing more and more and more.
Can we make it clear? Ashrathi said something that was surprising, and some of the audience is confused. I just want to make it clear. There's no compression when you compress something. Is there compression when you decompress? Loss. Yes, sorry. Is there loss when you decompress what was compressed? Is there an answer to that?
So I can hop in on this because I see like this is one of the questions that was there for when the skill books were initially found on Hobo Leaks, which obviously those were now in the Guardians Gala event. So when you compressing something, no loss. Decompressing something, no loss. When we talk about ice, asteroid ore, moon ore, right? But when you get the resource, like the material from that, you refine it, right? So if you have feldspar, you refine it to get the tritanium. A gas doesn't have that dynamic, right? So when you compress gas, you will make it smaller, but now to decompress the gas, similar to how you would have to refine something, it's the like very, very similar conceptually for that. But that does not take into place when you talk about moon ore or asteroid or ice. So
Okay,
it's
but
like for gas.
I'm just going to close with one thing. Can anyone from CCP explain why are you putting the sensation and the emotional feeling of loss onto mining and not on something like compression? To me, from a Skinner box and game design point of view, this feels backwards. I want mining to feel like a bonus, and when I put things in the pipe, I want to feel the challenge and the aspiration of me getting better gear, getting better skills, getting better facilities, and all this stuff to counter loss, whether it's refining or compression and all these things. I feel like this is upside down world, and it really bothers me from an Eve player since day one that this feels like going backwards.
Well, the mechanic you're talking about is there for refining, right? Like you can't build a Titan with a Veldspar, right? You have to break it down into something.
Yeah, but I'm saying that from a psychological point of view, when I'm active at my keyboard, right, and I'm pecking at things and doing things in space, I want to feel rewarded. When I'm then managing for my losses and my opportunity cost and my upkeep and all that stuff, this is something that belongs in what is basically a little bit more AFK-ish. So when I'm at a station, when I'm managing my industry slots, when I'm deciding what to train on my skills, this feels like backwards. Like you're putting an actual damaging and demotivating thing in space when I'm pecking at things instead of a ringing bell whenever I get the cherries. It's just psychologically backwards.
No, but this gives that gift to that miner, though. The miner that you're talking about is the one that's now compressing for free, and it's the refiner's problem to deal with the actual loss.
All right. Thanks for that question, Caleb.
Well, I have a different way of looking at it, and I want to see if CCP can, what CCP thinks about this. It seems like back in the day, one of the ways that they fixed things was by introducing the ability to like mine everything, all of the minerals in nullsec. And we see the development of that from like 2015 to 2019. And one of the big pieces of scarcity was the locking of minerals to the various different areas. And what we've seen is like a stronger reinforcement of everywhere has its thing, but everybody has to trade with each other. So I feel like making compression easier and more widely spread is designed to create a paradigm of trade as opposed to a paradigm of building up.
All right. Mel is back. Do you have another question, Mel?
It's just more following up on the question rant, I suppose, that came from Caleb there.
Question. Point of view.
The
point of view. We like those at TIS.
I can partially see where he's coming from, particularly with the mining waste mechanic that was introduced last update. The update before that has been
in December, yeah.
In December, yeah. So I can kind of understand that as someone who is primarily a high sec miner, skilling up into like the faster crystals or the faster modules, and then seeing that you've just 3-cycled a very large rock with your Hulk because you rolled really poorly on the waste rolls. I do kind of understand that, but something that didn't come up in the conversation there was the fact that we've always had waste at the decompression end, and I don't just mean decompressing compressed stuff. Decompressing as in turning a rock into its constituent materials. There's always been loss. There's always been loss in that, and you've got to train skills to recover from that loss. So I don't see where the complaint is when it comes to people saying, oh, decompression losses with gas, because yes, gas can't be refined, so the refining skills and refining loss don't make any sense there. But I do agree that watching a rock evaporate because you rolled poorly with the losses, it does feel like the wrong way. It does feel like things are the wrong way around in that regard. I don't understand personally where the concept of the waste mechanic as a whole came from.
Okay, so are you asking where did that thinking come from, or?
Well, I suppose, yeah, but also countering the whole, people being angry at there being decompression waste, because we've always had decompression waste. It's just been called something different.
Yeah, I saw a few comments about the decompression waste was something of a surprise, I guess. That's why I wanted to clear that up. All right, thank you, Mel. We'll bring you back. All right. Anything else on compression from you guys here? CCP Swift or Psych or Sutonia or Ash? If not, we're going to cover compression in a much deeper way later on when we start looking at things. And after Thursday, we're going to be able to play with it on CC and have a lot more of a real world experience there. So we'll check that out. Should we go on to Battleships? By the way, Swift, did you have a good time on your stream?
I did. It was fun. It's always nice to chat to I don't think people realize how high up in the company those guys are. So it's the creative director, CCP Berger, and the director of product, CCP Rattati. Yeah. This is what always struck me as like special to EVE, where you can just like sit down with like the head honchos and talk about stuff, and they'll like respond to you and stuff like that. It's super special.
Yeah. Your comment about players capturing a 1 billion ISK loot drop, which is a scientist, and saying we're gonna hold on to him instead, or they the cheaper scientists.
You're really going to tease chat that we're going to move on to battleships and then start talking about scientists? I'm the lore guy, and I think that's a bad idea.
I love that. Yeah, people are chomping at the bit for battleships. So let's actually.
I want clarity on this because it was kind of confusing how it was explained. Because you mentioned that plates were getting buffed, but
wait, you're talking about battleships, right? Okay, yeah. Let me go through these changes and then you can ask.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't understand what they announced because they also mentioned resistances, and that's not mentioned on there.
Let me read this, and then we can clear it up. Increase armor plate effectiveness by 50%, shield extenders by 100%. That's credited to Stitch Canelan. Reduce fitting costs for micro jump drives for all BS battleships. So they can be fit easier, basically, so you can use them more often if your fit doesn't allow for it. They want to make the BS, the battleship, worth its current cost, which is about 330 million, I believe. They vary.
It's going to be a lot more tonight, but yeah, something like that.
Oh my God!
They're back in style. Buy your battleships right now.
They're too expensive, my friend. They're too expensive. It's what they tell us.
No, I think battleships have equaled out after the production changes, right? I mean, by
the time the announcement was done from the battleship section, there's somebody mentioned in chat that all of the Abaddons and Jita were purchased.
Jita sold out most battleships already. Oh.
There's also
That's how these things work, my friend.
There's also like a proving ground arena, like Battleship 1v1, I think, in a week's time. So it's going to be super.
Yeah. So just to go over the exact mechanic on what is happening. So all battleships, T1, T2, Black Ops, are getting a unique trait that only affects extenders and plates. So there's no increased mass, sig radius, anything like that. It just means that if you're on a battleship, a shield extender is now worth 2 if you fit it, and the plate is worth 1.5. So you get 50% more on an armor plate. That's the tanky change. And then the MJD is getting a refit rescale to make it a little bit easier to fit, especially with lower skills. But yeah. And then plus the resistance bonus from hardeners and stuff.
Which is a 50%. So basically all hardeners are being increased by 10% effectively?
Yeah.
Okay.
So just strictly like so the surgical strike rollback was 20%. The bolstered bulkheads roll forward or buff is putting 10% of those back.
10% of the 20, so half of it.
We have a lot of interest in this section. I'm going to invite Mad Lightning, just joined Talking in Station's crew. And it's so funny because he said he tried to play Eve for a long time because of battleships. Like, just the idea that a game had a battleship, he was all over that game. And so he played since he was a teenager. So we'll bring him in here in a second when he gets back. But the first question...
Sorry, just to clarify on the resistance bonus, I think the Swift, we didn't mention this. We talked about like capital ships when it came to buffing the resistance. This is for all ships. It's hardeners on every ship in the game. It's not just capitals. So
yeah, it's the hardeners themselves, right?
That's right. It's the modules you fit to the ship that are getting this buff.
Yeah.
So it goes for everything.
So can you explain why the armor buff would only be 50% and the shield buff would be 100%, given the fact that like passive regen on shields is already like a big deal when it comes to shield hit points? Do you just want everybody to have Rattler Snakes, or?
Yeah, so Tonya, take it away.
I mean, the reason why the bonus is lower on plates is because 1600 plates already give about double the HP of large shield extenders. So a Tech 2 large shield extender gives you like 2600 HP. I think a Tech 2 1600 plates 5200. So that way it kind of balances them out. So they give about the same.
And there may be
the Rattler
instances
can
where
already
we
tank a Doomsday from a drifter battleship. This is going to be, I don't know.
Go ahead, Swift.
I was going to say there may be instances like all of these numbers are still subject to change before they hit tranquility, right? We're talking about them before they even hit singularity. So if there exists an area where, let's say, the golem becomes this super passive beast, or the SNI or the rattlesnake become like these massive problems, then they can be addressed before they hit tranquility. No problem. But I think the viewpoint of the team is just want to kind of throw these out there, watch players experiment with it, and tweak as necessary. But yeah.
All right, we have Anton with us. Anton Skylark, do you have a question about battleships?
Yeah. So when I heard this earlier today, it made me extremely, extremely happy. The only main question I have is, why are they so expensive now? I'm just thinking about doing, fleets of battleships. We got, I'm in a low sec corp, and we run loads of fleets and stuff with frigates and cruisers. But to do, for example, SRP for a battleship and to really go into battle with battleships is now an extremely expensive thing. And I would love to see more battles with battleships. And how can we address that? I know you're going to make them better, and they're going to be tougher, and they're going to have more tank, and so on and so forth. But how are we going to apply that to doing fleets with them?
Yeah, sure. I'll take this one. So the idea is to why are they so expensive, and as to like you want to bring them to a fleet, and how are you going to replace them? So the idea is that they're getting very strong right now, but the price you have to pay is if you lose them, they're going to be harder to replace. So that's like a choice that comes there when it comes to selecting like what you're going to bring. Like I can tell a little story as to like I didn't make this decision, but I'm also very excited about this. But this could maybe shed light on like why this is the case. So back in like 2011, I was in Nullsec Alliance. We were at war, and we had a faction battleship fleet, which if we lost it, it was irreplaceable. Like it was too expensive. There was no way for us to replace it if we lost. So we had to like select doctrines, like when are we forced to take this specific doctrine, like when we're up against the wall. So you get this interesting decision point to like, all right, like when is it going to be worth it for us to bring these ships? Like what's the price we have to pay if they lose this fight? Is essentially the question you have to ask yourself. And I think that's like, at least for me, just personally, feel free to agree. I think that's an interesting choice to have with subcaps instead of just like, okay, we can bring whatever the hell is meta, and the price doesn't matter. We just bring whatever goes boom best. So now there's like an interesting, like, what happens if we lose choice, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So this is a new dynamic that you're now faced with. I have no idea if this was actually what they talked about, but for me, this is what this change is going to be a little bit. So I think that's interesting.
Yeah, it would be fantastic to see a battleship slug match with between 30 or 40 ships on each side. It'll be absolutely fantastic to see.
Thank you. Thank you, Anton. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. I think that was a good question. Perfect. And I think sure. Like maybe it'll be fun to like if you could just sling a rattlesnake fleet into every single fight you take. Like, is that like that? Like we have seen this happen. Like it's the reason we did the industry changes, and the reason is that eventually it isn't fun anymore, and people stop playing. Like that's what we see. So that's why they have to, like, you have to feel the loss of picking something that's expensive and losing. So that is why, like, the price point is where it's at.
I want to direct you guys to Ashy in Space's blog because you can see that there is a really good article and sliders created on this. So you might want to check that out. I haven't figured out how to use them yet, but once I do,
you'll be unstoppable.
Yeah, I'll be all over this. So
I think Ashley just like went through and did the math, and like went into Python and like put in the new numbers just to see what it would look like, just so you can just compare how drastic this change will be, specifically for small and medium-sized groups. Right, you're talking about these groups that felt like with the surgical strike update, like a lot of options were taken away from them. I know a lot of people in like specifically like 20 to 30 man fleets are like, hey, well, we can't fly X because we just can't rep enough anymore because damage has gone up, but our tank has gone down, and it's it adversely affected how they played. So like this buff doesn't, or this kind of massive buff. This is the one I was super excited for. I wanted to scream it from the hills as soon as I read it. I think it's going to do a lot for small and medium-sized groups, specifically like wormholers. Not going to talk for all wormholers because I'm not one of them, but just really exciting. And this isn't something, I know people are quick to say, oh, all these changes are a result of like nullsec on the CSM and stuff like that. Like this doesn't affect nullsec all that much. Like it does tweak the power levels of everything else. So the Munin and the hack and the long range kiting is not always, or not immediately, the best option all the time. Specifically when you take it into account with the battleship buff, like and adding maneuverability and adding EHP, like suddenly that meta changes too. But this was definitely aimed at the smaller groups.
Yeah, this is the bolster bulkheads adjustment of surgical strike, which was, I think it was surgical strike is something that's referenced often by wormhole groups as to detrimental to their gameplay.
So CCP has performed the sins of words many times, but having a whole feature called bolstered bulkheads and then not have any buffs for hull tanks.
I heard purpose of porpoise just a few minutes ago.
Unacceptable. Go back, do it again.
I mean, if you read the surgical strike skill thing, it doesn't have anything about.
Give me some bulkhead buffs. That's all I want.
Who came up with this?
There's only so much alliteration options available in New Eden. Okay.
There's a joke in there about alliteration. I forget what it is.
I do have a question though, in regards to the resistance side. So one of the biggest complaints about Surgical Strike was that it had so many widespread knock-on effects, and everybody kind of felt like it was like, oh, my gameplay got disrupted because they were fixing the balance for something else, And I recently talked to Fonsui about this, and I asked him how he feels now that we're past it, surgical strike's effect on the Abyss. And he said he loved it because, having the higher end be a real challenge is important. And I just talked to him about it right now, and he's concerned that this reversion will be enough to trivialize the Abyss and other high-end PvE. Is there any work to
just make the
account for that?
Easy. Ship it.
Yeah, that's what I was asking. Exactly.
That's tunable on just for that specific content. So I'm not that worried about that.
Right, but is there any expectation to actually allocate the resources to make those changes? Because sometimes that doesn't, like I said, with Surgical Strike, it was just like, well, there it is, and now everything just had to adjust. There wasn't any adjustments at all. So if it goes the other way, is there plans to monitor for that?
I mean, so I think a lot of what you're seeing now is us iterating on features and kind of taking a look at existing systems and how we can make them better with a certain amount of dev time. So I can't say like, oh yeah, CCP Rise is going to buff Abyssals if this is a problem, but it's something that we'll be hyper aware of, right? It's something that is easy for us to see, like, oh, now a 300 mil Gila can just AFK T6 Abyss sites. Like, yeah, obviously, like if that becomes an issue, we have the capacity to do stuff like that. Like, just look at all of the updates in this patch alone. It's just a myriad of stuff from all over the place. It's not just one thing. So there's definitely the ability to look at high impact type of changes like that.
The person who says 300 million is Gila has obviously not looked at the market for Gilas recently.
300 million is fit, and I don't mean just the Gila itself. But yeah,
that's my point. It's a faction. It's a pirate faction ship. I don't know if you noticed, but they're kind of expensive now.
Yeah, they're expensive. They're really good.
Yes, they are.
They're annoyingly good.
All right. There was a question long ago about ancillary, extra large ancillary. I think they meant. I hope they repeat the question. I lost it. It's just a rainfall of questions. So we've just finished covering battleships. We merged into bolstered bulkheads and Surgical Strike being updated. They made some changes a few years ago on an expansion called Surgical Strike, and that really hit resists, basically your armor, damage resistance, pretty hard. It kind of nerfed capitals and super capitals, but it also rippled down the line and hurt smaller ships as well. And some of that is being looked at now and possibly reversed. So all resists going up. Goal to have resists at 75%. That's pre-Surgical Strike levels. OG levels minus 20. OG what? Original Gangster?
Right. Originally, they had 100%, then it was reduced down to 80%, and now it's going up to 90% of its original effectiveness.
Got it. Thank you for translating. Rigs, modules, active, passive, all ships. Impact, Abyss, Abyssal Space, as you were saying, and high-end PvE becoming easier? Question.
The one piece that you miss in that summary is the battleships are going to get a special roll bonus that increases the effectiveness of plates on battleships specifically.
Yes, that's the 50% effectiveness that we see up there.
Yeah, so it kind of stacks with battleships. Like while everything is getting, like Surgical Strike is going to make everything 10% better. Battleships will obviously get a lot more, maybe like 30% if you add it all up or whatever. Yeah, it's pretty good. One issue was, with Surgical Strike, often your ship would be alpha through before your reps even land. You just didn't have enough like hit points, whether it was resist or buffer, to survive especially when smaller fleets were fighting bigger fleets, bling tanking. So I think some wormholers will be happy to, maybe this will help go back to improving that meta and a bit more brawling action, rather than just like shield tanking and kiting.
Okay.
I got a quick question regarding some of the outlier battleships.
Go ahead, Mad Lightning.
A few of us in the community in general, we have certain ships, like for example, the Rock or a few of the other ships that are lacking in the DPS field that get resistance. For example, the Abaddon. The Abaddon has resists per level, but it also has a damage modifier. Some of the other ships that are still lacking in damage, even though this is a buff to them, I mean, it's not really bringing their effectiveness to the point where people want to use the ship.
It's like which ship specifically, right? So like the Abaddon, like the way the layout for the Abaddon is, you have some significant trade-offs for what the Abaddon brings.
Yeah, well, with the Abaddon, you have resistance buffs, and as well as you have a damage buff. Now, you compare that to, let's say, just the Rock, where it's got a range buff and a resistance buff, but its DPS is arguably pretty bad.
I mean, so the Rogue can hit out at like absolutely bonkers ranges. Like,
I think you're answering your own question. What the Rogue is good at. The Rogue is good at shooting really far, and then it's tanky, but it's slow.
Like so for the Abaddon specifically, like it can do a lot of damage from like 0 to 60. It also chews through a ton of cap, right? I think it's the only MR ship that doesn't get a bonus to cap usage on its guns, and that's for a reason, right? So you have to use all those mid slots and like utilize them pretty effectively, because once you slap on an MWD, like your capacitor starts really getting punished. So you get the resist bonuses, but you also have to put in some accommodation for capacitor as well.
Okay, additional question from Polynom C there in the audience on Twitch, and he asks, is the roll bonus for all battleships or designated only for the racial battleship? Basically, Galente BS only gets armor, whereas...
No, it's everything. Everything gets everything.
Okay, so bonus is across the board on the ship itself.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, so if you want to like armor tank your Raven, you would still get the like plate bonus on the Raven. It's just universal for everything.
Cool. All right, thanks.
I just want to clarify, this does not include the damage control unit, right?
No, that wasn't changed, and also the rigs weren't nerfed either in Surgical Strike. I believe it's just going to be the modules that were affected in Surgical Strike.
Right, the actual armor hardeners and shield hardeners.
Yeah.
Both type and multi-spectrum, coatings, etc.
All right,
That's a good point about the rigs, right? The rigs aren't getting buffed. They're just staying the way they were.
Okay. So maybe that's something we can elite. So, Swift, is this the return of the battleship?
I mean, the players will decide that. I hope it is. Like, I love battleships. I think everyone that's played Eve in the same generation that I played Eve, or rather the same generation that like I started and really got into PvP, probably has similar thoughts on how great battleships are. I think my friendship with Lazarus Tell Raven is predicated specifically on battleships. Like, that's how we became IRL friends.
I thought it was karaoke. Okay.
Yeah, that came later. First, it was battleships.
Right, you gotta have that trust.
There's just something that feels so good, as CCP Paradox was saying. Like, it's just a great feeling to be able to go out there and like pull it off.
And Lightning, you like battleships, right?
Oh, I'm die-hard fan.
This is what brought you to Eve, isn't it?
Yes, battleships were probably the single thing that hooked me onto Eve. I often brag to courtmates and friends. I could fly Marauders before I could fly Tech 2 frigates. I made a straight beeline to battleships and didn't look back.
We just need to reverse the rate of fire bonus of Megathrons back to damage bonus, and then all is well.
And then give the 90% webs back. Let's do it.
And then we're good.
This is why CCP Aurora became the game designer and not CCP Paragon.
That's right.
Congratulations.
What?
Oh, what? Congratulations to Aurora. You next, Swift. You next.
No, I will break too many things. I can't be trusted.
CCP
All right, we're gonna bring in.
has really gone above and beyond the Call of Duty to get her hands dirty to fixing things.
New question. We'll bring Taz up here. Taz has a question on battleships and also compression. What's up, Taz? Grab your mic. I will let you figure that out for a second. There you are.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes, go ahead.
Well, my overall question is, how is this going to affect the X value on the marketplace for battleships and moon ore compression?
So both those things
find out
combined.
Yeah.
I mean, we can always guess, like we can predict and make an informed decision on how that works. But really, the only way to find out for certainty is to, when these changes hit tranquility, see what happens. We don't have like some. Oh no, continue.
Sorry. No, I was going to say, the good thing about it is that's a lot of that is up to you. You can manipulate it if you choose to do so. Just like now, like all the battleships are sold out in G10 and stuff. But yeah, we'll see, I guess.
All right. Well, thank you.
Sure. Thank you, Taz. You'll see some speculation right away, but nobody knows. There's a lot of times there's spikes right after something is announced, built on speculation. When the price evens out because it's overly supplied, the price actually comes down. So these things are hard to tell, and it will maybe take a while before it hits a stability point. Sometimes, though, you can use this information to jump on a deal, just like Jita, all the battleships being bought out. That kind of a thing sometimes works out, and it's a good deal.
Yeah, it's also why when Ratati was asked about the blueprint changes on the Dread, like that's a hard no comment. Like we cannot, if we say something, we will affect its price, and we don't want to do that right now. So. But we do want to do it for the battleships right now.
Just let this be a lesson to everybody that if CCP is going to go live to talk about changes, you may want to have your trade alt and Jita logged in. Just lesson learned, I guess.
Yeah,
it's how I made my first what I thought at the time was a fortune. Was I don't know if you guys remember a player named Tyrax Thork. He and I went in on this was probably over a decade ago. We speculated on the price of barges because the barges, this, like I said, is a decade ago. This is not coming soon or anything like that. The price of barges was being increased. And so we just bought a ton of barges, and we made barges for like a month. Because no one else had picked up on it. And then after the patch, we just had a bunch of like really expensive barges, and we were like, yeah. And we had to sell them off one by one, but it felt so damn good to be able to find that one little corner of the market.
A quick opposite story, when CCP was talking about making the freighters more tanky, they first announced doing it with rigs. So I bought up all the materials that built all the rigs and paid a high price for all that stuff. And then they said, you know what? We'll move it to low slots instead of rigs. So I was left with all this stuff. So it works both ways. Okay, going on.
High reward.
Let's finish up quickly so we can let CCP guys get some rest. That's later over there.
It's fine. We love this shit.
Oh, do you? Great. We can go.
He does. I'm actually going to go grab dinner, so I'm going to leave you in the very capable hands.
Yeah, there's something we haven't talked about, and it's at the bottom of the dev block. It wasn't mentioned during the stream.
Oh. Shall we? Let's surprise ourselves. I'll go to the dev blog now. Go ahead, Paragon. What is it? Oh, that's a big dev blog.
Yeah, it's chunky. So some of you might have noticed we don't have a new quadrant, and the reason is that they are going away, and we're going to be doing something new. People have been asking me like every day, like, hey, where's the new quadrant? I'm like, soon TM. So we're going away from the 3-month cycle, and we're expanding it to be longer. This will allow us to do bigger features, which have been highly asked about, and they just take more time. when we're tackling major systems, they require time, and in order for us to be able to do that for you guys, we need to change the way we do our deployment cycle. This doesn't mean that there's not going to be anything for like 6 months. That's not the case. It's going to be tackled by a specific force on these big features. But I think we'll have like a nice balance of events, balance changes, and like smaller updates, like the ones you're seeing here for the like Poco and stuff, and all the like the hit list, so to speak. And then we'll be able to do a big stuff again.
Yeah, that is an amazing announcement. That's huge. So no more quadrants.
Are we going to get names?
Do you want to confirm that, Paragon? I set you up for a confirmation.
We will announce it on Fanfest.
Okay.
Like what it is.
What it is. It's a change, though.
Yeah, it's mentioned. It's mentioned in the blog. So when Burger said we had a lot in the keynote, he's not lying.
So is this kind of like more like the expansions we used to get, kind of?
He's probably not going to say more.
It becomes a lot more closed lip when the bosses aren't around to slip everything, you know?
He's probably going to, yeah.
It's going to be something else, guys. You just wait.
All right, can't wait.
Let's not put them in a rock and a hard place, guys.
That's what we do. Okay, so that is a very interesting announcement, and that makes me very curious about the future of development, because these are all marketing opportunities, right? If you look at EVE Online in the past, I think between 2006 through about 2014, you had spikes, and that was people returning to see what the latest expansion was. And that is spikes in the player concurrent count unit, or whatever it is, the PCU. And so when you went into an iterative development style, you lost those marketing opportunities to say, we've got this really cool new thing. You should come back and check it out. So it's always interesting to see how a game company works with their development cycle. Roadmap? No roadmap? Does nature have a roadmap? Well, it looks like we're back to a roadmap, at least for a few months. You guys know what they're going to be working on up until Fanfest, where they will make more announcements.
We have to save something for the big stage, guys.
Yeah, right. That applause. That I tell you what, watching Fanfest is so fun, even if you're not there. But it must be funner being there. But if you can't be there, watching it on stream is a lot of fun. Okay, so not to be anticlimactic, but is there anything else you guys have questions on here? Concord Rogue Analysis Beacon, the crab beacon, is going to get adjusted. Cap construction still being looked at. No, nothing there. Oracle conduit jump coming.
I do want to say about the roadmap thing. They refer to it in the stream, and it's worth noting that while we don't get to see the roadmap, that doesn't mean that there isn't one.
Okay. Klatura has a question on, well, I'll let him ask when he gets up here in just a second. And we'll bring Caleb back, and we'll look for final questions.
So this is more of just a question about a recent change that happened, and it's more for people who are visually impaired, i.e. me. The new skill training circle that used to be a bar, if you are right eye dominant and you can't see in your left eye, that looks like a giant blob that you can't see. I know there are other people in other games in the same situation, and that's why all skill bending towers in most games are a line and not a circle. Is this overlooked, or can this be made an option to revert back to normal?
It could be. To be honest, it could be. That's a super valid point. I'll actually just talk to the team right away about that. We do a big part of our play research is focused around UI and especially accessibility. And that goes for obviously mostly visual, as you know, it's a video game. So
even just
100%
a legacy tick box to say, yeah, I'd like to have it the old way so I can see it. Like, it's not that big of a deal. Like, I can hover over it and see the timer, but like when it's whatever combination of colors available, and if you don't have the right vision, it just looks like a blurry blob.
Yeah.
Good feedback.
Yeah.
So I thought
thanks.
that was important for other people in my situation.
Thank you for letting me know. I'll actually just point them at that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.
All right. Upwell structure update. Now this.
Well, I have a question about the Rorqual conduit jump.
Rorqual conduit jump. Go ahead.
Because this was talked about, but I want to be clear that I understood a little of the detail, because they were talking about how some back end work had to be done in order to make the Rorqual jump capable or thing to work, and it sounded like they were talking about harmonization, which is the rules by which who can jump to what. And, like, for instance, right now, Black Ops can jump to industrial sinos because Black Ops, by definition, can jump to anything. Am I on the right track that that's the kind of thing that was being fixed? Are they changing the way that harmonization is working in the background to add more flexibility?
If Psyche is still here, I'm sure he can answer. I don't know the exact technical answer as to what problem they're trying to solve with the tech, but
Drat. All right, I'll keep asking.
I think
Sykes here. Sykes here.
You can hear me.
Yeah, we can.
That is true. Yeah, there is a need for refactoring the code on how those mechanics work. So that is you nailed it. That's the exact area of that we're looking at, refactoring that part, and that will allow us to do even more stuff actually after it's done. So it's not going to be only for the Rorqual.
Excellent. That's what I thought.
Question from audience. This is Kozetsu. Do you have to skill into Marauders to get to Dreads?
No.
Nope.
No, the gun
you never have
systems
to
are
train
different.
Take-2 in order to go up T1.
That's a good point though, Abby. The gun systems are different.
Yeah.
And you do have to skill
you don't
into
have
those.
to train hacks in order to go up to Battleship.
I know. We don't know if he's relatively new player or anything like that, but there is progression on some ships, not Marauders to Dreadnoughts. You can go directly to Dreadnought after Battleship, I believe.
Right, but specifically what I'm saying is that the T2 track is its own track. Or sorry, T1 track is one line, and then T2 branches up from there. That you can tell by the...
Right, T2 is like specializing rather than progression.
Right.
So specializing on what you've already earned. So if you earn Battleship, you can specialize into Marauder, or you can jump up to Dreadnought.
The ship tree branches up like that.
Right. Okay.
There is one exception though to that rule. The Golem transitioning into the Phoenix, they use quite similar skills. You can get into a Phoenix much sooner than usual.
Well, that's true up and down the missile line, because the high application missiles, the rapid launchers, uses the missile one level down, and one of the quirks of missiles is that your skills are about the missile itself, not the launcher.
Okay.
So alphas can use Tech 2 rapid heavy missile launchers when they can't use any other T2 weapon system, for example. T2 large weapon system, I should say.
I just had one to Psych, even though I know he might say that I have to wait, but when it says Upwell structure update and roadmap and design philosophy and iHubs and all that stuff and potentially sovereignty and maybe even tax changes, is everything on the table? Can we maybe get the fix on the pricing models and the whole functionality of Upwell? Because it's been quite a lot of years now where the remaining missing parts have kind of been ignored.
Are you referring to the what is it called, the Sentry or something that was supposed to be for like local information gathering or something like
the admin hub and the potential new sub, and of course the horrible pricing model on services on Upwell, the fact that it's percent of a percent, so it looks ridiculous and it actually limits competitiveness of structure owners?
Short answer is yes, but Yeah, I don't think I can tell you any more than that. But
No.
Okay, so
everything is on the
wait till
table.
FanFest.
Everything is on the table, and we're actually going through this process right now to figure out all the different angles. Because anyway, you know what? I'll leave it to that. But yes, everything is on the table.
I love that in my mind, Psych, you were about to step off a cliff and then you quickly turned your foot the other way. Didn't step off the cliff. Good for you.
That's usually how this goes.
Yeah, it's a high wire act. All right, we'll try not to get
that, like CCP Swift actually snuck up behind him and like kicked him in the shin.
No, okay. Morda85 says, any plans to expand moon mining into the rest of high-sec systems, not just the 0.50 ones or the 0.5 ones? I think it's, yeah.
No plans for that.
No plans.
To echo on that, any plans to add like something more than OR4 moons to wormhole space? It's definitely more dangerous mining in a wormhole than it is in low sec.
No comment on that.
Oh my god.
All right.
Wow. Okay.
The
Thank you.
These are called dev games that we play, trying to decipher their pauses and their words.
Let me rephrase my question. Any chance of like OR16s or 32s? I have to go through each one individually.
Okay.
Too bad we don't have cameras on them still.
Yeah. Upwell structures update. This is interesting because I think the structures got a lot of looking at during the war last year. So I wonder if this is repercussions of some of that gameplay that happened last year.
Well, they were very thin on the details, but yeah, it sounds like, well, all areas of space has had a lot of discussion about structures recently. Besides, probably wormholes less than others, but like as high sec war decks become an increasing thing that is happening in conflict over the structures there, and all the way to like memories of trying to fight over the TTT, to low sec and its influence on faction warfare and how how structures have been maligned by faction warfare for all this time, and nullsec and the frustrations that came out of that, and how its impact on the different fights and everything. So, you know, this is one of the things that they've talked about in other interviews too, where one of the things that they cited that they weren't really happy with is the expansive use of tether in the middle of big nullsec fights for the purposes of maneuverability.
Like to say,
I don't know
hello to
Terrafron
CCP.
can answer
One second.
a question about the recent.
Oh, I was muted. Sorry. Hold on, Caleb. Just 1 second. I want to say hi to CCP Master Plan and CCP Convict that are out there. You guys are welcome to come on if you want, if you're allowed to. Go ahead, Caleb.
No, it's just I was actually doing that behind the veil thing and looking at CCP's numbers from PA, and congratulations on a good budget. It looks really nice. I was just curious if anyone could give an update on the whole CCP TV and news stuff, because I seem to have noticed that there was an entry that looks like there's now being thrown some money at it.
So the question is, do we have an increased budget for the CCP TV?
Is there stuff coming in that? Because you promised it quite a long time ago that you were going to ramp things up and do new show stuff. And
the pulse is amazing. I don't think
they did ramp it up. I would say.
Yeah, I mean we're working on things. There's not like, I'm not sure I
get to talk about it.
Know exactly what you're referring to right now, but like yeah, I think we can do more when it comes to just doing some more fun stuff, and that, on CCP TV, and that comes mainly from the community. So that's something that we're just like looking into. It would be nice to hear what you would like to see as well.
On the subject of CCP TV, I will say that if you don't, you should go follow the CCP Twitch channel, and if nothing else, anytime that they go live, just go in there and lurk, because you can earn the points, and you can actually hit the little treasure chest or whatever to get it faster. And I think it's like every 10,000 points or whatever is a random one of the CCP TV skins, and that's one of the only ways to get them. So it behooves you to be grinding them points.
I believe, if am I correct in saying that bot is a little bit down right now? Is he sick?
The bot is down, but you can still accumulate points. As soon as they bring the bot back on, then you can redeem them.
Yeah, so if you can't check them out, that's why. But it's the Galnet, isn't it? Is it Galnet?
Yes, Galnet.
Thank you.
It says CCP TV on the site. I'm sorry.
Yeah, they're awesome.
They're so good.
Okay, so what was I going to say? Oh yeah, Carneros out there was saying, does Caleb mean TV shows? Do you use the EVA Online IP for TV shows? If I remember correctly, Ridley Scott's company optioned the IP. I don't know if that option is still, usually that's a 2-year option, but I don't know what CCP worked out with them. And if you look, Ridley Scott has put out some stuff recently, like Raised by Wolves on HBO, which is pretty good sci-fi show if you want to watch something that's a little bleak. So
they do have that comic book too that's now going to be releasing throughout this year. So they are developing the IP.
Yeah, for those who don't know, in Los Angeles or in Hollywood, if you write a script, what people will do is they'll put an option on it, basically saying I have an option to use this to make a movie or not. And then there's also there's all kinds of stuff that go into that about you have only 2 years of the option, and then you have to give up the option. You either have to make the movie or you have to give up the rights to it and stuff. You can't just sit on it, even though sometimes people will sit on scripts for years and years and years before they get developed. I'm thinking of like, what was that one? Jacob's Ladder, I think, sat around for like 10 years until it finally was made. Anyway, a little bit of a rabbit hole.
Movie. But by the way, since we're mentioning Carneros right now, first of all, he did a great job doing that stream, and he has been doing a really good job participating with CCP streams, including his Carneros and Chill streams, which he's started reading the Chronicles, and like is really cool because it's like you can, at the end of the day, you can kind of just chill out and like have Carneros read bedtime stories to you. It's great, and like everything's evil and terrible and life sucks, but that's New Eden. But what I think is funny is how many people don't realize that like Carneros is a player. He's not a CCB dev. I keep hearing people like calling him a dev or whatever. Like Carneros is on our side. He used to be a dev, but he's on our side.
Okay, so what else you guys got? Do you have any more questions? We have Draco Fire here, needs to come on. I don't know what his question is though, so this is a little risk. But we'll go ahead and tap him in if you guys want to ask questions. What's that?
Full trust. We'll just fire away and see what happens.
All right. You asked for it. All right, Drago, ask your question. Yeah, I think he might be on a mobile device, so it's probably harder for him to unmute. I don't think he's unmuted.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. While we wait for. Go ahead.
I do have a question though. You did like at the very end, they did dance over the faction warfare words, and I got really excited just to hear like a developer say those words out loud. But it seemed like there wasn't anything going to be coming out, but we should be expecting a lot in Fanfest. Is that pretty much a good assessment that we shouldn't expect any more tweaking or this? I guess the structure stuff is going to interact with faction warfare, but is that?
Hey guys. How's that? Is that okay?
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Excellent timing.
Yeah. You just saved the devs from answering Astrothi's question.
Next question.
It was too probing, so they're not going to answer it anyway. Draco, go ahead. What's your question?
Okay, guys. So I know that you've gone down the path of compression being done in the barges and everything else. The question is,
Okay.
And he gets disconnected. I think he was waiting for an hour to ask that question, and that's gotta hurt. Let's see if we can bring him back.
He can also like DM one of us, and we can just ask it for him if
he's back.
He can't stay connected. Okay.
Yeah. You got cut off. Go ahead.
That's okay. So a couple of questions. First one is, the original design of compression for the command ships was basically everything was being processed on the command ships, costing fuel, or not, potentially costing fuel. With the new setup, are you guys basically basing it around the command burst structure of design?
I think that's for Zach rather be. But
I think I kind of missed the question.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Can you say it one more time?
Okay, so the original design for compression was all the industrial command ships would take the ore on board and process it on board. Now, the new setup is basically you're allowing the barges or any mining ship that's within a certain radius, I assume, to do it internally on themselves. So are you basically making the compression modules more or less a command burst type item?
Yeah, you could say that's how they work.
But the question, the second part of that question is, do the barge owners or the operators of the barges have to have the compression skill for that particular group of rocks for compression?
No.
So it's only the command ship operator that has to have the...
So to be clear, there are new skills. The skills are to operate the actual command burst itself, and then the other skill is to increase the range of that command burst. So just like
it's the same as the normal command burst.
Correct. Yep.
Yeah. So you're either able to grant the service or you're not, and then it varies. The range varies. But if you turn on the module and if you're in range, you can compress. If you're in on grid with it in a fleet.
Is it going to last the same? Is it like a 2-minute cycle?
All numbers are up for discussion.
We'll see on Thursday, is what I'm hearing.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
okay.
Yeah. Okay. If that's the case, then are we to use compression scripts on that thing to make it work? Where's the cost to actually run it? Like with command burst, you've got to have a script in there, and it costs you a script each time it cycles.
No, right now, you could say the cost is just the capacitor.
Okay.
For operation.
Now the other, yeah. Now you're saying you're making battleships better. Are you going to address the Edencom battleship and basically the whole line of the Edencom ships with their incapacity of being able to go toe to toe with another single ship?
Say that again about Edencom.
Okay, so
Edencom and Battleship.
Yeah, all Edencom ships with their Voltron next to useless in a one-to-one battle, right? Now you're trying to make the battleships better, so the Thunder Child is part of that. How are you going to make that one better when, if it's in a toe-to-toe fight, it's basically at a real disadvantage? Have you guys looked at the whole Voltron setup? Because as you know, all Edencom players are spitting tax over the fact that you got Edencom ships and they're next to useless.
So I'm not sure I'm following on the question, but
so it's like it's getting above, but what its purpose and what it's good at is not to go like in a win a 1v1 fight against another battleships that's designed to, or is like has the role bonuses, attributes, and everything to take another battleships on in a 1v1 fight. That's not really the change that's being made. It's more to address the line as a whole.
Yeah, I understand. I understand the whole buffing of the increasing the buff and all the rest of it.
It's going to be a lot better at like taking on different things than other battleships, assuming you fit like extenders on it, I guess. But
the nature of the ship isn't changing to suit the moment. Okay, so that'll still be better against multiple enemies, not one-on-one fights. Nothing changes there. All right. Thank you, Draco.
Hey, mate.
Thanks.
Suetonia is back. We got about 5 minutes left. So at this point, we'll just open it up to any last questions that we have. I think we took care of all of them. But Psych, Paragon, this was easy for you guys, right?
Sure, yeah.
I'm not supposed to be here.
No, he just showed up.
I did have a question. With the new player experience, you were it was mentioned that the goal is to basically make all rats and all dungeons into an experience closer to like the MPE is now.
The bad word. Okay. No, I think that would.
I explain that one all the time, but that's fine. It's industry
Don't
terms.
say
That's
dungeon.
Fine. Oh my god!
People get angry at you.
I know.
Now you can take it. Okay.
No, yeah. Come to my stream and I'll explain all about it. Anyway, how excited should I be about that announcement, and how impatient should I? Like, how is that? What is the timeline of that? And not like specifics, but like, is this year or like 5 years, or what kind of tier of goal or reasonable goal is this at this point?
Like, it's like if you have the amount of time to design one dungeon over this period of time, like, yeah, you can make them look really good. And I think when they're talking about, wouldn't it be awesome if every single anomaly and everything looked this good? Like, yeah, of course, but that would be something that is going to be able to be built upon what we're doing now. Is sort of where we're at.
So it's like a North Star as opposed to this is what's coming this year or something like that.
Yeah.
Got it.
Okay, Anton, back. Do you have one more question?
Yeah, I've got a total off-topic thing, and that's filaments.
You speak up louder, please. I can't boost you any higher.
Yeah, sorry. So the last thing I have is filaments. They've been an absolute bane in my life. They're fantastic to go and raid somebody's stuff somewhere in Null, but it is nearly impossible to defend against these guys. And it's for me, the PvP, if somebody comes to where I live, is non-existent, because all they do is as soon as you try to catch them, they filament back out. So to me, they're a bit counterproductive. I was hoping to get more PvP out of them, but is to go and find PvP is fine, but to defend against them is sort of useless. They come in, they do what they need to do, and they jump back out. So there's no way you can defend them. Is there a way that we can, or that can be made, that if you jump, for example, to somewhere in low-sec, that you cannot jump for half an hour or 45 minutes or something like that? I know there's sort of a aggression time on at the moment, but is there a way that we can keep people there longer so they actually not just come and be a nuisance and actually come to PvP?
Anton, for questions like this, we have a channel at Talking Stations called CCP Please. If you write out your idea, it gets seen there. Fantastic. Players can vote up or down on it, and so that's probably a longer term. I'm going to actually move you out because your mic is loud. But check out that channel for everybody at Talking Stations Discord, CCP Please channel. Write your ideas in there and requests, and that way other players can actually vote on them too. Ash, go ahead, Paragon.
This is very interesting. So filaments, and this is just the way I see it, but they are a mechanism as to which they arrive in your space. Before filaments, the experience was kind of the same, and the way you approach this was very similar. You would fly something where you would not be able to put yourself into a scenario where it's super easy to catch you, because then you just feed your ship. So the balance is like, how long do you want them to stay before they're able to teleport out, right? Like that's the time. Like, how much time do you need to like catch these guys effectively is the question I'm hearing. Like, I don't think personally that it's like filaments themselves, but it's more of the way people approach roaming PvP, I guess you can say.
I don't know if I agree that it's quite the same, because back in the day, like it had to go through your choke point eventually. So them being able to leave the system without actually going through one of the gates is the issue, not the time.
Yeah, but now they'll bring, like, they can filament almost anything, whether before you would see, like, they would be forced to go through eventually, but you would see more of things that will easily break through and get out, is what I'm trying to say.
Interdiction nullification and such. Yeah, that's true. Interceptors.
All right. One last area that we didn't cover very well, but because I don't think there was a lot of details from CCP, but let's try. Upwell structure update. More to come in April. iHub updates coming as well. And this also tails into what you were saying, was it Paragon? The roadmap and design philosophy change is coming. There will be a change there. So maybe the quadrant system is no longer what CCP uses, and what will be used will be announced probably at Fanfest. But as far as structures go, Paragon or Psych, do you guys have any previews of that?
I think it's for a different day.
Different day, definitely. Can you just explain, though, and only if you want to, what some of the problems are that would require you to adjust them? Like, what are some of the things?
There are a lot of blogs written about that. But yeah, go Paragon.
I could just, based on playing with these things since they came out. Like there's a bunch of things which annoy different people in various degrees. Like you have tether, you have the timers, you have the amount of timers. So you have like structures in different size groups and price groups, and they have different like windows. And some of them have a different reinforcement amount. So you reinforce something, like you reinforce everything the same amount of time. And then you have like the super cap fights that take place with one group being tethered. This isn't like I remember structures coming out and they were okay, but then they just didn't change. I think that's the issue. I can't remember anything coming out in the online that this big that didn't get iterated on. I think it's hard to say like this is what's wrong with structures and it needs to specifically change. It's too much of a like a immersive gameplay thing. It's like like by themselves they're simple, but they affect so many different things. So
right, like faction war, I think is a big.
Yeah, that's one of them.
Yeah. Was faction war mentioned today?
It was.
It was a glancing blow about faction war, though, right? What'd you hear,
in regards to structures? But they did suggest that we'll probably hear more about these sorts of things at FanFest when it comes to those sorts of things. But one of the things that I read from the tea leaves about this, and I don't know if this is true, but it's just a couple of comments that they made that made me get the feeling, because when they were talking about the capital changes and the battleship rebalance, they mentioned the ability to tether in a kind of a sly way, and then later on talked about the structure changes without talking about them. It really sounded like one of the things is that the ability for capitals to tether may be hindered.
Well, we shall see. All right, Paragon, Psych, thank you guys for hanging out as long as you did, and thanks to Swift for coming by earlier. Sutonia and Astrothi, Caleb, and all the people that asked questions today, thank you guys for participating in this. We're going to wrap it up now, but we want to give Paragon or Psych any room to say any last comments or any last questions they didn't feel they had a chance to answer. Do you guys have anything? Paragon, or any last words?
No, I think like this is sort of a culmination of the past 2 months. So hopefully we'll see a lot of people just reading up and looking things up after tonight, and it'll be fun to see their thoughts on these changes, especially on Thursday when we can show some actual meat. It's been a lot of hard work, so it's it'll hopefully pay off. But yeah,
Are you nervous?
Always.
Poor guy. All right, Psych, thank you for coming too. You have anything, anybody you want to say hello to or anything?
Hello to everybody.
Yeah,
and thanks for having me.
Of course, our pleasure. Okay, well, thank you guys for being in the audience. Again, join Talking Station's Discord if you want to continue on with this chat. We talk about this stuff all the time. Ash?
Before we let them go, I just want to say, like, as an aside, like, taking a step back, it is absolutely awesome that CCP, you know, goes through all of this effort, puts out these videos, comes onto our stream to answer further questions, you know, takes on all kinds of questions they didn't filter it first or anything like that. Like, the CCP team is really awesome, and I appreciate what you do, and I appreciate you doing this because I think it's very useful for us.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
All right, thank you guys. And thank you, the audience. We will see you next time on Talking Stations. Stay tuned. Next, we're going to send you over to Great FC Zepando from the Initiative. So stay tuned for that. That'll be in about 5 seconds. And once again, thank you, CCP, for rating us and also for providing us with the Paragon and Psych. That was this has been a lot of fun. All right, guys, take care.